Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele Francis, here with my lovely co-host, Tanya. How are you doing today, Tanya?
I'm great. I just brewed a fresh cup of coffee. Ready to chat about the finale. We made it, Chantal. We made
I mean, I feel
it.
like this was a slog for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, well, okay. Yeah, what are your overall thoughts of the episode? Let's just start with that.
I mean, I feel like everyone on the show and us as an audience have just been through the most painful version of this show somehow. I don't know what else I expected. And I will get to after the final rose as well as its own separate thing too. A lot to discuss and unpack, but yeah, it just felt extremely painful all the way to the finish line across a variety of different things. And I'm glad it's over now.
I 100% agree with you. I don't know what I expected. But and I know with the fact that he's the first Black Bachelor, it's going to have a different tone than I'm used to. Absolutely.
Mhm.
There's something about the heaviness of the finality of the finale and the finality of this journey. It was just so unfulfilling and pretty much unenjoyable.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I was watching and I realized like I was just writing down like conversation pieces. Like it was just like a therapy session like the whole way through with no lightness and anything that made me feel good. So
Yeah.
I really just did not enjoy it at all.
No.
And I am very happy that it's over. And I don't think that I am invested at all in seeing what he even does down the road. Like I'm not like, oh, I hope like for some reason it's actually even more so put me off of his journey and his story, which I thought was also interesting. I don't know.
I feel like so mixed. Like in many ways, I do feel for him because I think he was just heavily manipulated, especially like having not been in the franchise before in a real way. I think they totally just took that and ran with it, and they really screwed him over in a lot of ways that I see. But then also, he was very unfulfilling in a lot of ways as well. And I don't even know. I feel like he's going to be very anti-franchise. I'm curious to see what he's going to do going forward because from everything that we saw and the way he was just so beat down by the end and so defeated and just like done with it, that to me like leads me to think he's not going to want to be involved with this franchise at all anymore. But then time will tell if he chooses to be, and I think that'll be interesting because he has every right to just be like, I'm done. As soon as my contract is done, I'm gonna like say what I need to say for real and move past this. But I don't know what he's actually going to do.
Me neither. I mean that is an interesting point. I'm not invested in his love story, but I am invested in his Bachelor Nation story.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what is Tyler C gonna be doing? Like, I guess is what I'm looking forward to. Well, if this is your first time on Reality Realness, well, then welcome. We are very happy to have you. Hopefully, we'll find some, lightness in this podcast. But please just subscribe right down over there. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We can't do it without you. So if you haven't guessed it already, we're talking today about the finale and the after the final rose of The Bachelor season 25. And, it starts off with the voiceover of Chris Harrison saying an emotional season finale. And then I don't know who said it, but is love enough was something I was like, okay, so you're already telling me that this is what's it's all going to be all about is like, is love enough?
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't like knowing that that was going to be the narrative of the entire show.
It just like kind of solidified, like we knew that that is what Matt was feeling because we've been talking about this every week, how he obviously doesn't feel like he's ready to make that commitment. So yeah, we could kind of anticipate that he probably wasn't gonna end up proposing to somebody, and we talked about that, but it's just like that is also the show. So I
Right?
mean, it's a very what did we expect? Like I went into this being like, of course he's not ready. Like, and of course love isn't enough in this situation, but like I guess for me the narrative became more about Matt's realization that he doesn't have to just do that, as opposed to was he sincerely ever building towards that point. I think he kind of felt that he had to do it at the end of this experience. And I think over the course of especially the last couple of weeks, he was like, oh, I don't have to propose to somebody at the end of this, especially if I haven't even been in love with somebody before in my life. Like, duh. So I think that just like dawned on him or something. I don't know.
So Tamika is in the house. Hey, Tamika. Thank you
Hello.
And Joseph says, hi, Joseph. I felt like there was too much pressure on Matt this season. He's the second Bachelor, Brad Womack being the other that was the Bachelor without being on the Bachelorette first. And look at that. They both did not choose somebody to be engaged to in the end. Yeah. And I guess what I think is interesting, that's a direct correlation, that they didn't really know what they were getting into and they didn't want to, commit to a proposal. And I get that it's too fast of a process to be, yes, I'm ready to get married. But I also see that it's enough time for some people to get married as well, So if he was knowledgeable about how it works and he was making that decision, that would be a little bit different. I do feel that he got duped. I do feel that they just like rushed in Black Bachelor, friends with Tyler Cameron, put him in Black Lives Matter, let's go, first Black Bachelor. And they didn't really take into account of whether or not he was ready to be married, ready to be the lead of the show, ready to be the face of all Black men and Bachelor Nation. Like, they didn't look to see anything but his color of his skin as him being somebody that would be a good Bachelor. So I think that they vetted a terrible choice for the lead, and it's shown by the fact that he didn't choose anyone in the end, that he's with nobody in the end. Because even if he was a better Bachelor or better person in relationship, he might have chosen maybe Michelle or one of the other, amazing women that he had on his season, and he would probably still be in a lasting relationship with them. So I don't think he was emotionally mature enough to be able to take on the role at all. And I'm like, bad Bachelor Nation. Like, we know that they're not great. It was bad.
It's also like, I mean, not to bring it constantly back to it being like, why wasn't it Mike? But like, seriously, you have someone presented in Mike that is like willing to take on the role, understands, has a different perspective, is actually going to bring a fresh like take on being the Bachelor. He's interested in people who look different than the people that we see on this show. And then for them to choose someone who is a periphery or friend of their two of their most popular like white folks on the franchise in Hannah B and Tyler C, and especially like people stan Hannah Brown. Like, she's so popular. Like, they purposely did that, right? Like, they obviously purposely did that to further your point that you just made. It's like they totally it's like giving someone a job that is not qualified for the job, basically. And they just did that.
Is him in a weird way right now. Tamika doesn't think they should have chosen Matt. We, from the very beginning, we didn't think that he was a good choice, and we do think it was a Band-Aid on. It was performative, 100%. I think they just thought that anybody can be the lead, and he, just because he said yes doesn't mean that he is going to be a good person to play the role. And exactly. It was just like really bad casting on their part. Really bad. Like, why don't they, where is the screening process? Like, why haven't they talked to more people about like who should be the Bachelor and Bachelorette. Like, I feel like they're talking to the wrong people.
I'm thinking like more and more upon watching this, what I've realized is like how polarized the fan base must be, because even watching, like, we'll get into it when we get there for after the final rose, but even watching that, the tone in which everything's presented leads me, like, I didn't realize how big of a difference there was between the viewpoints of people watching the show. Like, I know there's like people that believe things differently than me, that are on the opposite end of the political spectrum than me, or on a lot of topics like religion or all of that stuff. Great, I get it, but I think like clearly the divide is so ridiculously like severe that they have to approach things in a way that feels very elementary for the folks that are watching this, being like, what? Like, why are we doing this? Like, I don't understand. Like, are we not already here? But we're not already there, clearly.
So Joseph says Matt was only picked because he's Tyler C's friend. They screwed clear season 2 the moment he was picked. I know, and there was some men on there that I would be interested in seeing them and their love story potentially moving forward. Like, I could have, if they wanted to choose from them as a Black Bachelor, maybe what was his name? He was the spin instructor. I really liked his personality. Damar.
Yeah.
I really liked him. I thought that he was a little bit young. I think he was 26, but like, he had a great personality. I do feel as though he's had life experience as a Black man. Like, I think he would be able to bring some insight into that role. And not to say that Matt hasn't, but I don't know if he's been as immersed into maybe Black culture and like things that a lot of Black men have experienced. I don't think that he has had as many experiences as someone that would be full Black, darker skinned, living in different parts of the world. So I really wish that they just kept their damn formula, not like jump the gun and just like have, you know, Tyler C's best friend come and like save the performative action Black Square Day, and have him be the new Bachelor. It's all around bad. So we start off the episode with Matt like walking through the snow. Like, the B-roll in this episode was just out of control. Like, you see Rachel sitting there writing with her notebook pen and then looking out the window with a look of wonder in her eyes. Like, it was just so ridiculous. I found that to be the most enjoyable parts of the episode, was looking
I agree.
the B-roll and like about like how many times that she didn't do that, like put the pen down, like, and then look out the window. And
it was very Hannah Ann of her. It was a Hannah Ann moment of like, here's my cute note for you. I just really love you, Matt. If you like me back, check yes or no. Like, it felt like that level of energy, which is kind of how Rachel presents her love for him anyways. And this, like, you give me butterflies, like, I feel it in my heart and in my body. And like, it's like very high school.
True, very true. I mean, interestingly enough, I grew to like Rachel more this episode. Well, most of after the final rose, I actually started to like her more. I think it must just be because I grew to dislike Matt more. So I think that's where everything balanced out, is that I ended up liking the women, because I don't think that he took care of the women and their hearts like he was claiming that he was doing by his husband. So we're going to get to it.
That's interesting.
And Sam, we're definitely going to talk about all about after the final rose. So I will statement at that point. So
it's funny. I feel actually the opposite. So we'll get there. Yeah.
I mean, you might have to convince me otherwise, but like just watching it, that was just like, I was so put off by him. You know, he got his tying his boot for his B-roll. Amazing. So he goes and he sees his mom and his brother. Now, he hasn't really talked that much about his brother, maybe a couple times in passing. We learned that it's an older brother. We learned that his brother has a bit of swag and like some gold. I was like, I love your brother. Why isn't your brother the Bachelor? Like, his brother would have been, for me, a more entertaining Bachelor. And I think that, I mean, I'm sure that he was given the questions to ask and stuff like that, but I felt that he had more of a personality than Matt. What did you think of the mom?
Totally. John the Scorpio. We're happy to have his presence on the show. Well, do you remember when, like, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, people were like, Matt's brother, and I didn't even know that he had one. I was like, he has a brother?
Yeah.
Okay, and here he is. And I'm really glad that John was there, because I feel like for the first time we were getting a perspective of someone that knows Matt, that's not his mom, who's obviously going to speak in like highly like, oh, my son things. John was like offering this perspective of being like, oh, this is new for me. Like, I've never seen Matt behave this way. Essentially, to me, kind of like confirming his fuckboy ways in like in more polite terms, be like, I've never seen him like this into somebody. He's never shared this with us. And I really liked that perspective, and having that from John, I was like, oh, thank God, like somebody who's actually in this situation, like being like, okay, what are you doing, Matt? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I really like John. You know, his mom was saying things like, oh, you're so animated. So I like the fact that he is talking about these women in a way that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned before, and we've talked about often, is that he hasn't had a lot of relationship experience that goes past the point of infatuation and flirtiness, and you know, he's never let these relationships get deep, and so it was interesting to see his family being so surprised that he was so interested or so into these girls, these women.
Yeah.
So Michelle is up first. And I really thought that she makes a really good first impression. I thought that like she comes in, she's very grounded, she's direct eye contact, she's it felt truthful to me and intentional in her words, and like, you know, like even like her hand placements, like she's really, I felt, showed that she cares for their son and brother, and she really wants to be engaging with both of them as well. So I really thought she made a great first impression. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think like this is the ideal way you would want to have a conversation with someone's family that you're meeting for the first time. She feels very natural. And I think this is why, you know, a lot of people respect the like strategy that she has, is that there's an effortlessness to her. So it's like, I believe that she loves Matt, and I actually believe that she's ready to get married to him. So either she is so good at playing the game that we are watching of The Bachelor, or she's genuinely believes that, but no matter which way, I'm like on board 100%. So I don't know if she's just so skillful at navigating these situations, and that is telegraphed like to us as an audience, or that it's genuinely motivated. I personally, I think she really likes him and really had feelings for him, but like you know, I gotta applaud how effortless she makes it seem. I've never seen anyone do it so flawlessly, I don't think.
Especially when we all know that the other shoe's gonna drop, and we knew that she was picking Rachel.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, wow, like the fact that she's so convinced and he's not choosing her was, it made me curious, because it's like, is he giving something that she's not picking up on? Is she choosing not to see something that he is giving off? My thought is that because he's not supposed to be able to fully say how he feels, that any hesitancy she thinks is because it's the show, he can't be fully open and honest. But I'm just wondering though, why she was so sure.
She said that, I guess like when she talked about it later, she said that it was when he met her family that she became 100% sure about it. So maybe that was the turning point, but also then again, strategically, that's kind of a great way to be like, that's when I knew, when my family embraced him. Like, you can't really go wrong with that. So yeah, but I think she saw it there. I think maybe like spending time with Rachel outside of that, she didn't actually like consider that she would really be the one that he chose. I don't know, you know, but I believe she thought she would be final one, Michelle.
Yeah, it's just so yeah, we're gonna get more into that. So she goes and speaks to his mom, and the mom is crying a lot, and asking about what she loves about her son, and she says the fact that he's a world changer. And so it seems as though, from what she was saying, that she knew that it was going to be Matt that was the Bachelor, and that she specifically wanted to be the Bachelor or be on his season for him. So I thought that was interesting. Piece of information that maybe we knew that, but like it was confirmed in that moment.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if she did a little bit of kind of what Claire did with Dale. So she knew that Matt's going to be this Bachelor and that she's going to go on this show with them. I'm wondering if she started to paint their life together to somebody that he wasn't. How Claire decided that Dale was this amazing guy, that she was all eyes on Dale, and that she was super involved and deep into this relationship. When we're like, wait, you've only actually met him once. Like, how could you be so sure that it's him? So I am curious, even though I do feel that her care for him and love for him is more genuine than I found with Claire's, but I'm wondering if she built up their relationship a little bit more because she knew in advance it was going to be him.
I think that's possible. And also because she was one of the later group that came in too. So I think we suspected that she went on the season because Matt was the Bachelor. And yeah, we did get that confirmation. So I think totally, like, she probably built up an idea of what she thought it would be like. And their connection was very instant when she did come in, and they had that amazing first one-on-one date. They were literally finishing each other's sentences. I can see, if you're like manifesting that for yourself, how those pieces start connecting, that you might by the end of the experience be like, yeah, absolutely, like, I'm ready for life with this person, because she's already seen it. She's already like projected what that future is going to be like, right? So I felt very real from her.
I think that it's detrimental to the Bachelor with them knowing too far in advance who it's going to be, and the Bachelorette. I think that them being able to research and being able to do some, cyber sleuth and deciding what these people are like and what they're all about, I think it's actually a little bit problematic.
Totally.
I really think that for both those seasons, that's what made them not work, is that people had tunnel vision as to them. They're the one. I know that they're one. I've already imagined it. I've already decided this. And nothing that they're going to do is going to waver this, because I believe that this is true. And so then the reality they don't really see the reality of the situation. They see their dream and their vision. So she might have did the same thing as Claire. So I think that she imagined him to be her partner when he wasn't really the guy that she might have been imagining.
That's so fair. And also, I'm thinking about it now, like, as you're talking about it, I'm like, maybe, because this is really even like, they've kind of sort of broken into talking about events that happen outside of what we see on TV in the franchise, like 1 or 2 times in After the Final Rose, or just touching upon those things. They never really go in them in depth. And this season, because so much of what's happening needs to be addressed, and needs to be addressed inside the realm of the show at this point, but it's all things that happened outside. I'm just like, is this marking a change where we almost have to acknowledge that the show exists on social media too, and that impacts what we see happening on the actual show? Or do we like really like cut that off, and it becomes like, you're on the show, you don't know who else is on, like, you don't know that information until it gets revealed? Not talking about spoilers, I mean for the people that are actually cast, because I think people know now they're in Bachelor Nation. There's already getting friend requests from other people that have been on the franchise. Like, there's so much game happening outside of what we see on our screen. So I don't know how that will evolve.
When I first started watching The Bachelor, like the first season, I remember it was more so like, this eligible, handsome Bachelor, wow, he's single. He gives them his wish list of the type of woman that he would like to be in a partnership with. They would scour the country and find them 25 suitable suitors, and they would go on this love journey. Like, that's kind of how I remember it to have beginning, was like an honest, like, it was an eligible bachelor looking for love, and nobody knew who he was necessarily.
They were like sort of well known, like
Andrew Firestone type.
Travis Stork,
So, you know, they might be famous in that way, but they weren't somebody that they're like going to start. There's no social media then, so they were going to start researching them and like seeing like, ooh, like I want to be with them. So there was something a little bit more genuine, and the romance of it was possible because these are people that would genuinely never ever meet. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so I do think that the social media element of it and the fame that comes from it and Bachelor Nation from it is altering how the ineffectiveness of the show.
Yes.
Because people have different motives for being on there now. Different motives. So the brother also talks to Michelle. And Sam, I'm dying here with your comment here. Sam says, why do I feel like Matt's brother was the black version of him? Laugh, laugh, laugh. It's true. I did.
Yes, he was.
His brother emanated a little bit more of the swag that I would like to see from the first Bachelor. Not to say that there's a stereotype on how black people are supposed to be. Like, I don't like the term of being like, oh, like whitewash, like none of that. But his brother did bring an energy that was a little bit different than Matt, that I was hoping to see within the first Black Bachelor. Yeah, I think his brother has swag. I liked his brother. Hi, Dino.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. If I didn't come to your comments, because we'll probably talk to it about in after the final rose. Ooh, Mike Johnson has a girlfriend. Who's Mike Johnson's girlfriend, Ross? Hi.
Good. Happy to see that for Mike.
He was dating. Wait, you watch X on the Beach, right?
Yeah, I watch.
Angela.
Oh yes, I remember. Oh, Angela.
I don't know if that's still a thing, but if I'm not mistaken, some sleuthers saw that Mike Johnson and her were in Mexico for her birthday.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that coming out.
She's fire, so I mean, I would date her too. She's really.
Yeah, I'm here for her. I'm actually here for her as a reality TV personality. I've found her to be quite enjoyable on all the shows that she's been on.
On Bad Girls Club?
No, so I only knew her from when I guess she was on X on the Beach before she was on The Challenge. So that was my introduction to her. I had never seen her on Bad Girls Club, but then obviously X on the Beach, The Challenge, and then that's when I was like, I love this. Like, good for her.
What's really interesting, and this is no shade, but I could barely recognize her on Bad Girls Club because she had a full-on rhinoplasty. And she she was still beautiful back then, but like now she's in like a new stratosphere of like gorgeousness. Totally. Like she has like that Instagram, like perfect symmetrical face, but she had like, I would say maybe a strong nose, and she looks completely different, but then you can hear her voice and her attitude and you're like, wait, that's Angela. It's very confusing going back and looking at her before her nose job. So if you want to take a look back, it's very like, it's kind of jarring and weird to see like, I recognize you, but I don't.
Yeah, like I see you, but I don't see you. Well, your nose changes like how your whole face looks, I think. So
I'm going to show you pictures after we do this podcast. I'll send you pictures of like before and after. Okay, so Tamika says Matt didn't choose Michelle because she is wife material. Interesting. I think we'll talk about it more, but I think that he didn't choose Matt because he doesn't know what he wants in a relationship, and he doesn't even know that that's what he wants or that what he needs. Like, I don't think he understands who he is in relationship, what it would mean for him to have a partner and a wife. Like, I don't think he's done enough investigation on himself emotionally in order for him to even know that Michelle would have been a good choice for him. So honestly,
I also feel like the show does this thing where, this happens with The Bachelor. I talked about this last week. They usually choose someone that they're more sexually attracted to. That's not necessarily like the wifey that they would pick. And I don't like that it's presented that way, because it's like, here you have Michelle, who's like literally the perfect option for someone that you should marry. And even from what we've seen on the show in terms of their connection, like maybe there's not the chemistry that him and Rachel have, which is not really present in my opinion anyways. But like, she's got a great profession. She's articulate. She is a former athlete. They can relate on that. They had amazing chemistry on their dates. They're, like all of this stuff. And then you still pick the other person. It makes it seem like women can be everything and still not be the person that gets chosen. So I guess that's maybe just a shot at what the men are picking in this show. But I hate that that's like enduring narrative of the final two. It's like perfect wife or like girl that I think is hotter. Like that's how it's presented. And I don't like that. I don't like it.
So when she's talking to her brother, he says, you ask like, what type of qualities do you see in my brother? He's kind of looking for her vibe and just to see what she's all about. She says that he is a man of his word and that she trusts him implicitly. And I was like, uh-oh. When they leave lines like that in, we already had our idea that he wasn't going to be choosing her anyways, but it's like, oh, trust. And I think his brother knows that, like, he doesn't see him getting married to Michelle. Like, I think that he just doesn't see that being the ending as much as Michelle is great. Michelle is beautiful. Maybe in the past he's only dated like Instagram type women, like social media influencer types. Like maybe that's what he's used to seeing Matt being hanging out around, and a little more real and a little bit more of a woman, and not so like so magazine. So I think that, when she said that, I was like, uh-oh, this is not going to end well at all. She said that she recently ended a relationship in, I think she said December. That was news to me, though. So this is a rebound. Like, if it hasn't even been a year since she ended something that was decently serious, that she said that went on for longer than it should have. I was kind of ooh, maybe not share that information, because I did think that, is she ready for a new relationship and to get married? Like, it was a flag for me.
That was an interesting reveal late in the game too. Like, I was surprised that was coming out now. Not that I think like I think she said January, and then this would have been what, in the fall, right? That they would have been filming it. So yeah, that is very soon, and maybe, depends on the situation if that's too soon or not too soon. But she said that it should have, like, it was unhealthy and should have ended before that. So maybe she was just kind of ready to get back out there after that experience. I don't know. But I was intrigued by that info. I was like, oh, okay, good to know. Had no idea that was as recent of a relationship that she had.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. I wish we'd learned a little bit more about that. Like, why don't we know this before the finale? I think it would be something that should have been talked about a little bit. So his brother says that he's never really brought anyone home and that he seems happy and in a good place. His brother did seem very skeptical about the whole process and whatnot, and how Matt's acting. And so maybe they just were like, I don't see, like, this is not my brother. This is not my son. This is like, what's happening here? Like, shake him out of it. One thing though, which I thought was really, interesting when Michelle was talking to the mother, is the mother was feeling guilty about not having the full family experience for him, mother, father, brother, dog, picket fence, whatever. And saying that, Michelle, you had a cohesive family upbringing. And I really do like how she honors his experience and saying that she's happy that he's able to really see the value and the benefit of having, a mother, father, like cohesive family unit, and that she's not shaming him for his experience. So I thought that she handled his mom's worry there really well.
Totally. She flawlessly handled the conversation with Patty, who really gave her like immediate tears and like doubts. I was like, this is a lot of energy coming from Matt's mom, who apparently like literally just can cry constantly, which is what we've learned from this episode. So I thought Michelle fielded that very well. She handled it very well.
Me. Okay. Again, like, and it goes whatever, just like just talk about the comments because my internet has been like just not doing well. I've canceled it and now I'm gonna get another one, but I'm just kind of annoyed. I'm like, why am I paying like $60 a month for internet that drops on the regular? Kind of annoying. So if that happens, you know what to do. I believe in you.
Godspeed.
Matt's mom, while she's crying though, did say that, you know, he's always had friends that had like these family units, and he gravitates to having friendships with friends that have the cohesive family unit that he didn't experience. And so I feel that Patty has some guilt about that, and that's probably what she was crying for the most part about. But I thought Michelle really handled it really well, that it's not a negative, it's not, or a disadvantage, and that it makes him more grateful. So I'm really happy that she seems to say the right thing to comfort his mom, because his mom, I think, is really worried about him going out in the world and not having that full family experience.
Mm-hmm. She
says, though, I'm in love with your son. And the mom's like, you're going to make me cry. That's to her mom. No, her mom says, I see your sweetheart. And Michelle says, you're going to make me cry. They should have a boo-hoo moment. They might as well.
I don't know. Like, you're going to make me cry. I don't think that's even difficult to do. She's like already crying before she met you. So, jeez.
So Matt says to his mom, though, hopefully I can get to the point where I can get engaged. And I was like, okay, well, we saw this coming, but I don't think that he's going to be getting engaged. Wait, what'd she say? What more could I want? What do I mean by that? I don't know. So, anyways, Michelle comes back and talks to Matt, and they're sitting outside and saying like, oh yeah, John put me in the hot seat, which is great. I think that John, how he handled it, was my favorite part of like hometown visits with Matt's family.
I agree. We needed that presence because we were just getting a lot of Chris, and like I need for Matt to not just be having conversations with Chris. Like that never seems to be effective at all.
No, we learned this a couple times this episode. I have some choice words about at least one of them. So Michelle died, and what I noticed that he kisses her too quickly. Like there's timing in kisses, whether you're doing it on camera for an acting scene or in real life. But like it seems like she's always like lips to lips, and she's about to kiss, and then his mouth is already on top of hers, and I feel like there's something off about the rhythm and the timing. Why are you laughing?
Guys, I like this exact kiss. I had the same reaction to. I was like, what the hell was that? Like he but in and out like so intensely, and like with his mouth just open, like it wasn't. I mean, God, Matt has some goofy kissing, and like I know we've been harping on this, but this particular one that you're talking about was so quick and so stupid. Like I was like, I wanted to try and pause it because I wanted to see the moment that his lips made contact, because it looked like she was kissing like this and he was like, "Dah." Like it was just weird.
And trying to teach him to like get into a certain rhythm. Like I think that he's never kissed somebody and got like turned on by it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he knows how to kiss. I think that he just thinks it's just like I don't think he gets it.
Doesn't know. He doesn't. He gets the pieces involved, but doesn't know how to use them. He's like, I know I have to move my mouth, to her mouth, but he doesn't understand that there's a lot more to it than just meeting mouths. There's like more elements at play. He just doesn't get it.
No, my gosh. I'm sorry, Matt, but you definitely need, like, I'm reading The Game of Desire with by Shannon Boodram, and she's like a sexologist. Like, some of her YouTube videos, you see she's like teaching people how to kiss. Like, he needs to get a lesson from Shan, because this
Seriously.
woman knows how to kiss. And I think if he learned how to kiss, he probably would learn how to fall in love as well, because I think you can fall in love through a kiss. Yeah, I think that it probably is, maybe it's a barrier for him. Like, he does it because he's supposed to, but I don't think he allows himself to actually be in it and like feel. And I think that it's become a mask. So it appears like he's connecting, but he's not actually allowing himself to be vulnerable. So, you know, just a little assessment. I may know nothing, but I may know everything.
Well, I think like the key that comes out of that is like, he did it because he was supposed to, seems to be like the theme of Matt's life, you know? Like, that's the vibe I'm getting.
You know, with like his strategic hand placements, it's like, is it natural for you to put her hand at that part of her lower thigh? Like, I'm like, I just don't know if that's where anybody would naturally have their hand fall. It just, everything seems placed and posed, and he's not doing it. So
even the way he speaks sometimes, I'm like, what are you saying? Like, who speaks this way? Like, it sounds like sometimes like very robotic response. And I don't know if that's just because the life has been knocked out of the guy at this point, but like, seriously, sometimes I'm like, again, you're doing these things, but I don't know what you're doing, really. The gestures are there, but I'm confused about what's going on behind the scenes.
So was the snowball fight, was that B-roll, or was that Michelle in the moment really wanting to throw some snow at him? Like, whose idea was this mini snowball fight?
I think Michelle initiated. I think it was Michelle's idea. I think she was like, there's snow and this is like a great spontaneous moment that we can share. And
just wondering if they're like, okay, I got it. I got an idea here. There's some snow. It's staying on the ground. Like, Michelle, I got something for you. Like,
yeah,
maybe. No, I think Michelle, I agree. I think Michelle decided to do it just because she is quite playful. And yeah, there's snow on the ground. Okay, so I was really nervous for Rachel for whatever reason, to meet Patty and John. I guess, like, I don't feel as though she's as well-spoken as Michelle. And with the previews making it seem like something catastrophic happened, so I was assuming something catastrophic was going to happen with Rachel and the family visit. But I was pretty much wrong. Like, Rachel, yes, she was really nervous when she was going in and when Matt was meeting her to bring her in to meet his family. But to me, it didn't look like John was sold on Rachel when she was sitting there. Like, kind of how he was looking was very like, he doesn't buy any of Rachel. He said that he sees a connection. But yeah, I don't know. Matt was talking for Rachel on the couch, which was really weird. Like, Matt was like going on, like he hasn't talked that much about their relationship, and you just see Rachel just staring at him. It seemed to me as though he was trying to validate Rachel. What did you think about how Matt was reacting to Rachel being there with his family?
I felt like he like almost had to like pre-sell her to them and like really like get the points down about like how they connected, and like it was at this moment of this date that we had, remember, like kind of like pulling that in. I feel like maybe that was even his own insecurity about that coming out too, because I think I feel like he probably even knew at this point that it wasn't going to be Michelle, and therefore like kind of needs to sway the favor towards Rachel a little bit more. So I got that vibe. from him. And I also wanted to know if the bouquet was recycled from the one Michelle presented to Patty, and then they just used it again for Rachel? Or did they
No, it was
wrap
different.
separate flowers because they both, oh, they're different flowers? I was like, prop
Had
department.
sunflowers, and Michelle had a mixed bouquet. I thought that Rachel's flowers were cuter and prettier, and then like it was kind of a standard bouquet that Michelle brought. I definitely noticed that it was a bouquet of sunflowers though that Rachel brought.
I didn't notice that they were different. And I was just like, what are these gifts anyways? Like, you didn't get them. The producer just gave you this stuff to give. Like, I get that it's a gesture, but
Rachel getting the sunflowers because she's so bright and youthful and sunny. I was like, I'm sure that was just a strategic choice of the producers here. Hundo. So John talking to Rachel, asking him like, have she ever experienced true love before? Rachel's saying that he is the other half of her. I'm just like, she's read the books to know what to say, but I do not believe any of this at all. Says that he makes her feel safe and comfortable, and I was like, interesting. And that he's funny. I thought you'd get a laugh out of that she thinks he's funny. And then she's like, and goofy. So I think that
yes, he is goofy. He is goofy. That's the word. He's not funny.
He's not funny at all. I was like, So Matt and his mom, I think his mom said that she's cute, and he asked her what does she think about Rachel. Did I write anything about that though? No, I didn't. Do you remember anything about Matt and Rachel's mom and his mom talking?
Oh, yes, I do, because this is where she came back to the bait that she laid out on night one when she cried during the prayer to mention to Patty that she felt like this was God's way. And ding, 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 there we go. That is exactly what she was trying to set up for herself this entire time, and I thought it was strategically great tie-in for her and brought Patty to tears.
Absolutely.
So again, it's contrived. It's to me totally phony. I know some people don't agree with me, but I think it is. I think it's purposely set up.
When Rachel's talking to the mom, and Rachel's saying that she feels that this relationship is going to bring meaning to her life. I was like, really? No. And Patty asked, like, when did you first feel like you were falling in love with my son? And then you pointed out the most phony moment that you weren't buying in season 1 is what she's referring to here with his mom, while his mom's already emotional and being like, showing like, this is how we connect because this is God's way.
Yeah.
Who can refute that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
And it worked flawlessly. Like, Patty bought that 100%. I thought that was like a smart gameplay move on Rachel's part. She knew exactly what she was doing there. So, I mean, she played the long game. She really did.
And Rachel's saying that Matt is perfect in her eyes. I'm like, she really just wants to be the final girl, because I don't see the relationship that she's describing. You know what I mean? Like, they like each other enough. He's attracted to her for sure. I don't see her that into him at all, but it just seems so calculated.
Well, and then you have Michelle saying things like Matt's a world changer, which is like such a, compliment to say about somebody. That at least like she sees qualities in Matt that she, can list off, whereas Rachel's just like, he makes me feel butterflies. Like, okay, and what about him is appealing to you? Like, I actually don't understand what qualities. Or yeah, he's goofy, and it makes me feel comfortable and makes me feel safe. Not like Matt's a great guy because it's all things he does for her.
Yeah, remember we were saying that she's gonna definitely say about how he takes care of her. The reason why she loves him so much, and we were bang on with that. Like, she doesn't actually like him. She likes how he makes her feel.
Yes.
And I mean, I think that's important how the other person,
Sure.
but like, I also want to see the qualities in them that you appreciate and admire and are inspired by. Like, not just like, oh, he makes me feel like a princess.
Yeah.
Love him.
Like, that's a nice thing, obviously, and I hope you feel safe and comfortable with your partner, but like, what about them even allowed you to get to a place where you wanted to like be around them and feel comfortable with them? Like, there's got to be more, and I don't really think there is for Rachel. I think it's always just been about winning, really.
Let's catch up with some of these comments. So don't get me wrong, I like Matt, for someone that has never been on TV, handled this with a lot of grace. He had some work to do. I wish that he had like a coach of some sort. He needed some help, but he did an okay job. Bibine, hi Bibine. Hi. When asked, Harrison always said he was waiting for the right Black Bachelor. In my opinion, Mike Johnson was too Black for them. Absolutely. He wanted to have women different sizes and skin tones. And I think he was asking for more diversity than they were willing to give him at that moment. Maybe if he was in the talks a year ago, you know, maybe he would have been the first Black Bachelor, but because it was just before they wanted to take this performative stance, it wasn't, the timing was off. Yes, DeMar would have been great. Yes. He was live with Chelsea Piper and Ivan last night. Great chemistry. Really? On what? What was he live on? I want to watch that.
Probably on the gram.
Oh, shoot. Rachel, you can't stand Rachel even more?
I agree, Tamika. We'll get there.
He's still pretty ignorant. Yeah, you'll hear why I'm saying this. Matt's brother is a rapper and he has a YouTube channel following right away.
John the Scorpio.
And Moses, I agree, Chantele, but Middle America would probably feel too threatened by. I mean, he would never be the choice. He has gold teeth. Come on. No. Unless he was super famous. That's the only way that they would have picked somebody that had the same kind of vibe as John, would be if he was already famous. They would allow somebody that's a little bit more, I don't know, hood, street, like whatever you want to call it, if they were famous already and they had a built-in audience. I think Matt's mother is projecting her issues that the marriage with Matt's dad didn't work out onto Matt. We didn't need Rachel's tweets to be the issue. They didn't work. Yes. Okay. We're going to get into this right now. So Matt talks to his mom or his brother, kind of wanting some. Okay. Is the only thing. I get so worried.
I know. I was like, is this the time?
Now, that gives me peace. And, you know, John asked if there's any concerns that he has. And Matt says that there's new feelings that he has and new feelings that he doesn't really fully understand. And that's why I really think that he was a bad choice, because these are new feelings. So if it is a feeling that this is the woman that I want to marry, he's never had this, I love somebody this much feeling. Mm-hmm. So for him to be able to gauge whether or not he's ready for marriage, it's not fair because he doesn't know if he's ready for marriage.
Yeah. But then he's also receiving, like, I don't think that his mom or his brother are incorrect about calling out the fact that he clearly doesn't seem ready for it, because he doesn't. And we all have felt this way. So I don't think there's wrong, but I do think like the projection aspect, or at least like hearing that from his mom, I think is translating to him as like, oh, the examples that I had in my life, I do not want to duplicate, to the point where it's like, he's questioning even his own intentions and his actions, that like maybe to a slightly unfair degree, because of that like element of pressure that's in there too. Like, it's like, you can feel like you don't want to marry somebody that you just met on a reality show, and that's like super normal to feel. It's not just because of like everything else. And I feel like that was a little bit getting projected, but I don't think that Patty and John were wrong bringing it up to him. Like, I think they're right. Like,
yeah,
he's not ready.
So Joseph says, Matt's mother not cutting the cord much better. And so I do agree with you that, and with Patty and John being like, hey, like, are you ready for an engagement? Like, this is the next step. Like, you don't have to say yes to an engagement. You're free to take more time if you want to. Don't feel pressured. So I agree with that 100%. But there was an element from just my little, spidey senses going off that she didn't want him to get married. She didn't necessarily want him to be engaged. Now, it could be this, it's kind of cliche, but she's been the mother, the only woman in her son's eyes. Like, she gets all that attention. It doesn't seem as though she has a new partner in her life right now that adores her and that she gets to be a wife for, or like in partnership with. And so I do kind of agree with Joseph here. His mom also not wanting to cut the cord and allowing him to get married, and using a little bit of the fear that he might do to one of these women what his father did to her, that she's probably for many years talked about how hurt and the pain that she's experienced from how the love wasn't real with his father. So I kind of see that there's a little bit of mama's boy energy, and the mama not wanting her son to necessarily leave her.
Yeah. And I don't think that's really fair to Matt, that I think that's like kind of everything about it is like, there's too much playing out for him here. Too many realizations. Like, I think he tries to articulate it a few times this episode where he's just like, but I'm getting new information and so my perspectives are changing. It's like, yeah, you're like a newly born babe. Like, you're not supposed to be playing all of this out in this context. But at the same time, it's like forcing him to discover a lot of different things about himself. And like, he can't escape it. Like, it's happening publicly. So he kind of just has to go through it instead of skirting around it or not dealing with it in the way that he might in life before being on this show. Like, maybe he was content with just dating around and hanging with Tyler and doing their thing in New York. But now he can't just do that. Like, he just can't. Too much has happened and too much has come to light for him, right?
True. And his mom, though, I didn't think that it was very positive of his mom to being like, love is not at all, it's not everything, the be all and end all. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that is what I would be the takeaway from here, is like, just because you love somebody doesn't mean you should marry them. Like, yeah. That's true. But love isn't the be all and end all. I'm like, well, it should be a lot of it.
It should be a big thing.
A big component of it. But I agree with the sentiment. Don't feel like you have to jump into an engagement. I agree with that. I don't think that he was ever ready for being the Bachelor. So obviously I agree with this. But I didn't fully agree with how the mother was kind of guilting him into making this decision, which is probably the right decision for him. But the how, I don't really stand by fully.
I agree.
So he says his reassurance is now exchanged for doubt. Talking about, am I ready? And he needed to talk to Chris now. So Chris really didn't agree with Patty, and he was pretty clear about.
Chris was pressed. Whoa!
Actually, well, before we go there, though, Sam had a comment. The rubbing on the leg that Matt did with his mom was so weird. They did have it. There was a weird thing, and I was like, is that where he learned it from? Like, I don't know. Did you notice it?
I did notice it, and I was like, what is happening here? I did not. No, it's a no for me.
Oh my God, BB, and you're so right. If Rachel saw Matt's brother on the street, she would clutch her purse and cross the street. That's probably why I was nervous for Rachel, because from what John was giving off, like, I felt as though it would have been a very unfamiliar vibe for Rachel it just doesn't seem like he would be the type of person that she hangs out with on the daily. And so I could see her being uncomfortable with his energy because it would just be something completely new and maybe a little bit too potentially unpredictable, just because it's somebody that she just doesn't know their kind of vibe. So yes, I agree. So does Moses. Yes, it was creepy. So Matt said that he felt most comfortable with Michelle's family, so that makes sense. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
They had so much common ground. Like, yeah, maybe there's a different family unit in terms of, oh, okay, yeah, you know, he has his parents who were separated and her parents are together. But like all of that aside, and I think we can start to move past the idea that the nuclear family is like the ideal or even representative family of what a lot of people have or experience, because I don't think everybody or that is even the norm anymore. But regardless of that, like there's a lot of common ground that's still there that I think he probably felt also with her family too. So, yep, he goofed.
Big time. Thanks, Bean, for agreeing with my point here. Yeah, I think she did paint a picture, though. I definitely do. I think that less people apply for casting if they don't know. I think The Bachelor is big enough that they would take the risk. I
feel like they never used to. Or I mean, yeah, did they used to know?
Like maybe 7 years ago. Like when did Instagram or like Twitter start? You know, 2007. Yeah. I don't think until maybe 2000.
Or to your point, like pick someone who's actually famous or like really well known, and then we understand that person has a public personality, and the in is that we're like getting to see, you know, drawing the curtain behind whoever that individual is, and yeah, why not?
Celebrity. I was kind of thinking, I was going to talk about it later, but I'll mention it now. I was like, ooh, is Emmanuel Acho going to be on Michelle's season? Because like I thought that he was vibing with her, and like I believe he's single. He would be somebody that would be a great bachelor, I would think. You know, like go down that route. Go for a football player then if you're going to do the
yeah. You know. I feel like they could do the athlete thing really well and like actually pick somebody that's known, and that I feel like a genuinely like well-known athlete bachelor could be really, really interesting. And I think it would be also for an American audience, like people love sports and people love this show. What an interesting combination of those two things that would translate to its current audience and not feel like, I don't know, it's just reflective of what's popular there, you know?
For sure.
So that would be interesting.
No more pharmaceutical sales reps like pilots. Like, give me a football player, give me a baseball player. Like, that would be, I think, really dynamic. It would just be interesting. You'd see that world that this person's going to have to kind of come in. And it just, I think it'd be a nice little shakeup. So let's put it out there. If they have like a year to figure out who's the next bachelor, maybe they'll do that.
Yeah.
So Reality Steve changed the game. Like, I guess, yeah, maybe he was what has made it, you know, spoiling who's going to be on the cast and who's. But it's also before that, though. People started to like know things. But yeah, no, Reality Steve, though, I think that I don't think it's good for the franchise anymore.
It's Reality Steve plus social media's like extreme rise. I think that those two things paired together, because he was spoiling things and doing his thing with his website from time. But I think really things have escalated so much more and like developed in the way they have with the rise of like Instagram and Twitter and everything. So yes, that's been a long time now, but in terms of how it's played out in this franchise, especially like since, God, I don't even know since which season this would have really started to make an impact, but at least the last 4, like
at least. And the last 4 or so have been like kind of the worst, you know?
Yeah. I'm viewing it as like its own like era of the show, I guess. It's like, it's been on for so long that it feels like it's like in different phases. And this phase is this like social media impact phase that we're in where that's how it's playing out, and it'll evolve and continue to change.
Well, the people that are applying now want to be social media influencers.
Yeah.
As opposed to before, people were actually applying because they were maybe interested in The Bachelor, or then before that they just wanted to find love. So it definitely is evolving, and hopefully we can fix it. But I don't know if they have the tools. They should try something different. They should never announce the next Bachelor. Episode 1 should be the introduction. That would be awesome to me. Because then you'd see real sparks, right? If it's there.
Totally.
Bachelor hasn't worked to this point, but I think it's definitely led to manufactured drama. Yeah, see, now it's more about drama and more about the, that stuff. Then it wasn't like that before. Yes, Angela from X on the Beach, they are still an item. Yes.
Great. I support this.
She had problems with Nelson. I was flipping through TV one day and they were on Dr. Phil. Oh my God, that Dr. Phil episode with Angela and Nelson was a lot. Have you seen it?
I've seen only clips from it, but yeah, their relationship was drama though, I feel, from what was playing out on social media.
Sorry, what's this say? Hi, Keisha, nice to meet you. Okay, so if you're a contestant, it doesn't matter because Caitlin Bristow said when you are in the environment of The Bachelor, it's so hyped and the girls want the guy, it colors your judgment. So she said it wasn't her type. Who's Chris again?
Chris Soules.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that happens for a lot of people. It's like anytime you're put in a competitive environment, then it sort of forces you to either join up and like take it as seriously as everybody else is taking it, or you run the risk of being somebody who isn't going to make it far. So I think it comes down to the individual and what they want to do with the season. But if a bunch of girls are saying, oh, I'm so in love with this guy, it makes you either have to do the same thing or you don't, and then you're not gonna win the show. So it's kind of like, how much do you want to play the game or not? Are you actually interested or are you not? Do you want to pretend or don't you? Or do you actually like that person?
Well,
but
I think so, like, I'm sure everybody is experienced like not really being interested in somebody, but then your friend maybe points out some bits about them that you never noticed before, and then you're like, oh, like I see their attractiveness now, like, and it kind of can morph when other people are showing interest. So I can see absolutely how being in the Bachelor environments allows you to start feeling things for somebody that you might not actually be feeling for. And yes, if you're choosing to play the game more, you're like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to fall for this person. And yes, it can very easily not be true. And I agree with you, Kisha. It could be hard to tell what is real and what is not real. I definitely get that.
They're purposely depriving you of anything that would like allow you the sanity of like understanding like you're isolated, you're with these other people, you're sleeping with them in like rooms with bunk beds, it's all done in intention of like depriving you from accessing what reality even is and only being present in this manufactured reality. And I think probably even more so that's emphasized in a bubble season where you actually can't even leave. Like, yeah, they travel and do other stuff. Some of the other seasons, I think it still feels very insular, but at least they go places. I can't even imagine how much more escalated that would feel if you're like just stuck at Nemacolin or just stuck at La Quinta. Oh my God, for like months. That's intense.
Definitely intense. But like you end up liking people more than you probably would if you were, going home and like having to go on a date and going back to your real life and talking to your best friend about this guy that you're dating. And she's like, that's a red flag. And, there's no real reality checks that happened in these shows. No. So totally agree with you, Keisha. So Tamika says, I think the issue is that Matt doesn't have a wide dating history. For example, kissing with his eyes open and not being able to navigate certain conversations. Absolutely. And this is why, like in the beginning of this conversation, we were like, why did they not vet a better Bachelor? Just vet somebody that has a little bit more experience. I wish Matt's family and had hated Michelle because the fact that they loved her made it worse that he dumped her. I mean, the fact that we love her made it worse that he dumped her. Why did they show Rachel and the Michelle conversation? Good question. We'll probably talk about that. I think I might be able to find it too. That could be interesting. So this is to Tanya regarding your comments about Matt not picking Michelle, who is perfect for him. You know this. Men don't win with the brains, LOL.
I know. And it's frustrating to see every time, every single time. I think, like, I wonder, you know, it's hard to even qualify or quantify this in a specific way because obviously attractiveness is subjective to the person. But I wonder if the people who have lasting relationships that are bachelors, like, I don't know, I'm not a Sean Lowe fan, but I'm wondering if he like is an example of someone who didn't make that choice and is still with that person that he chose, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't know, but it definitely seems like most of the time it doesn't work because the guys choose that way. And
yeah, they choose whoever they're most attracted to.
Yeah.
Kisha says not breakups, relationships are breakup relationships. Not all breakup relationships are equal. Some you are ready to date again and happy it's over with. LOL. Yeah. I mean, I can't fully judge Michelle on, you know, who knows how much time she needed. And yeah, maybe she was checked out from a year before and it was actually over and it was just kind of fun and like, you know, being done with it. So I'm not fully judging, but I do wish that we learned about this a little bit more because like, that's an interesting layer to like, are you right now? And why are you so ready? And how do you know that you're so ready when you kind of should still be kind of mourning another relationship? So I don't know all the details, but it just seems a little bit soon to be jumping into a marriage within a year of something that was long-term. Just seems soon, but it could still be fine. Thank you. That wasn't my point about Matt picking friends that have perfect families. That was actually Patty's. Patty said that. I was just reiterating, but thanks for the credit. I started dating 6 months after my separation from a 10-year marriage. Not really a red flag to me. Okay, fair.
I think for some people, it might just solidify that they're ready to move on, you know, but
they're open. Mm-hmm.
I know, in-depth analysis, you know?
Well, okay, not gonna lie, when I was in my 20s, I was a kissing bandit. So I would be the girl that would go to the bar or whatever, and like I'd make out with everybody. So I would say that I
practice
on the kiss. And the kiss actually on like my deal breakers for partnership, it is a deal breaker. If we don't have a good chemistry in the smooch, it's pretty much not happening. And I think I shared with you before, but I'll share it again. I had an acting coach that said, if the kiss ain't great, legs don't separate. I think this is rules to live by because like, have you ever had someone kiss you like this? Like, and you're just like, what's happening? Like, how is that going to get you in the mood? It's just not. So, yes, I would say that I'm a kiss expert. So Bibian says, yes, I did not like the fact that Chris announced Acho at the beginning of after the final rose. Chris stepped away, supposedly. Did he?
Yeah. He's like, it was his voiceover. Like, it was Chris's voice announcing after the final rose and specifically like saying Emmanual Acho. So it's like, why am I seeing more Chris than I've ever seen? Like, actually, like, why am I seeing and hearing more Chris than I've ever seen? I'm waiting for the stepping away to actually occur. Like, truly, I feel like I've gotten more Chris since the interview with Rachel that he had than ever before in my life. Like,
they probably
I don't understand
these two like I need to talk to Chris moments. I need to talk to him because they're like, well, we need to show that the lead needs Chris to be there in order for them to be able to navigate the minds of being the Bachelor.
It also reads as like ABC, like, you know, very tepidly testing the water and saying Chris is still here. Even with Emmanuel Acho's verbiage being like, I'm stepping in for Chris, like they were very deliberate about, you know, it feeling like, Chris, he's still around in the franchise. He's just not doing it right now. Like, that's how it felt to me.
I felt it. Yeah, it was appeasing all the Bachelor Nation. Be like, he's not gone. No worries, he's not gone. He's not gone. He's not gone. It's not. You know, like
Yeah.
panicking. Like they don't want to lose these people.
Like,
So
give me a break.
with Chris Harrison, since we're talking about him, there's a lot to unpack with him. Kind of, I don't even know what Matt actually said, but he kind of alluded to his mom thinking that feelings go away and he's doubting that he's ready, and how the feelings that his dad had with his mom faded, and so he doesn't want his feelings to fade as well. I thought it was how he interpreted what his mom said and how he related back to Chris wasn't great.
No. But then Chris was also just like, I like wrote, Chris comes across like an asshole here, because that's how he actually, like, it seemed like he was like, are you gonna get engaged? Like the energy that I was getting from Chris was like, so are you gonna get engaged or not? You know, like kind of like really trying to like dismiss everything that he had been told from his mom and be like, kind of like no patience for that conversation is what it felt like. And I was like, I don't know that this is like really
Selling him.
Helpful for anyone involved. Maybe he got pulled into this and he was still getting ready or something. Like, I don't know what but he truly seemed to me like he could not be bothered to actually take this conversation seriously and was actually kind of annoyed.
He was annoyed. He was pissed. He was pissed. Like he was saying things like, this is not the guy that I talked to 2 weeks ago. No, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. He's like, there was a time that you believed in what you were saying. And I was just like, Chris, like this guy is scared to get married here. Like, this is just not what I don't think he should be saying if he wants to encourage him to get married, or get engaged. Like, he reminds him that Matt had said, like, my wife is in this room. My wife is in this room. So question is, did he actually feel that way? Or was he just saying the lines that he was prompted in his ear to say? Like, how much of it was truthful is my question.
Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows, right? Like, I think, again, it's like maybe he thought it was going to be a certain way. And then things changed. Things changed so much over the course of it. Things got more real. Things got more intense. And people often get mad at the lead for doing this because they're like, well, that's the point of the show. And it is the point of the show. And I get that you know that going into it. But again, it's like, I feel like the more of a pushback you have naturally, like deep within, like Matt is feeling here, that you're like, something's wrong and I shouldn't do that, the more they come back at you by being like, but you said you were going to do that and it's fine and just like do it. Like, it's okay. Like, you should still get engaged. Like, that's the point of the show. Don't worry. And to me, that would send even more red flags off. So I kind of get like where this all gets mixed up. And Matt is not the only person to do this either. So
no. Well, like the one line that Chris said that was like so rude, I thought, was like, so mom says love changes, love will, feelings change. Don't worry, love ends. I mean, what kind of greeting card is that? I was like, man, like
Chris, why are you so mad?
Why are you so mad, Chris?
Why are you so angry?
Yeah, and Matt obviously reiterates not a top seller. And so, yeah, I really didn't like this interaction between them. But Chris does ask, like, what are you scared of the most? And he says that he wants to make the right decision. And the right decision is for me to taking the time and not doing what I should do. And I want to do what's right. And I don't know if what Matt should do or what is actually what he should do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, not that I think that he should get married, but I don't like his takeaways from this conversation with Chris, his conversation with his mom. Like, I just don't feel like he assessed what is right for him and the situation enough. And I didn't like that he says, like, well, I don't want to just give them a proposal because that's what they want. And I'm like, wait, that's not what's happening here. You're not giving them a proposal because that's what they want. You're giving them a proposal because that's what you promised them. Like, that's what you guys were working towards. That's what they believe is on the timeline. That's what they believe is the truth of this situation. So for him to be like, yeah, I don't want to just give them what they want. It's not what they want. It's what you guys wanted together. And he needs to, in my opinion, that's what he needed to address, would be like, look, I'm sorry. I thought you thought that we were on the same page here and that I wanted to get married and get engaged to you right now and that I was ready for this. But I realized that I'm not on that same page as you are right now. So that's what he's doing, not giving them what he wants because he needs to do what he wants. Anyways, that pissed me off.
No, I agree with that. I think that's like a really valid point. And then also for the women, then I understand like for Michelle to be like, what the hell's happening here? Because up until that point, that hadn't been made clear from Matt at all. Like, it really seemed like he was gonna just see it through to the end until like literally this conversation with his mom and his brother. So yeah, things change, but also from the perspective of the women, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And he could have just approached those conversations better. Like, he just didn't, he was not able to articulate it with anybody well, unfortunately.
And so Chris was like, so what you're saying is that you don't want to get engaged. You don't want to propose to anybody at the end. And Matt says, I don't want to do something that I'm not ready for, which is fine.
Fine.
It is totally fine for him not to feel ready to get engaged. But don't be saying that that you're doing it, not getting engaged because you don't want to do it just because that's what they want. No. Yeah. Reevaluate this. This is what you sold them on. You sold them on this idea. Like, I think, who was it that didn't get engaged? But I think that he already had kind of talked to them about it not being what he wanted in the end. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a complete surprise when they didn't actually do the engagement.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, okay. Anyways, it was annoying. So he's like, oh, I guess gotta dig deep. I was like, get out here with your buzz phrases. This is the best thing for Michelle and Rachel. But yeah, because like they're not going to be engaged to somebody that actually doesn't want to be engaged. So absolutely, it's the best thing for them. 100%. Yep. But I just thought that Chris just seemed annoyed by the whole situation. I think it's also Matt doesn't articulate himself very well. I do think that he led the women on. We never really felt that he was ready for this commitment, 100%. But I wish that he put on the brakes a little bit sooner, or like showed this worry more vocally sooner, because we could have rectified something. It could have changed the outcome instead of me also with Matt. I'm also annoyed with him.
Yeah. Well, he actually did the opposite. Like, he was like, we're here to get engaged. Like, he essentially articulated that. So like, after all the drama was happening, he was like, if you're not here for that purpose, then like, let me know. So I like, from what we're hearing you say that's where we're going. From what is happening in your actions, that doesn't line up. So that's not good.
Time though, like he should have been being more honest, at least with the producers, you know.
I don't think he actually knows what he wants. That's honestly
true. You're right.
Like, I really don't think he knows what he wants at the end of this. I don't think he's in touch enough with his own feelings and emotions about like how he feels about maybe anything. And now that's starting to come to light, and I hope that he's able to kind of start to figure that out for himself, because it feels like he doesn't have thoughts that are his own. He's just like taking in everybody else's thoughts, opinions, and ideas of what he should be by virtue of the position he's been put in as well. And like, I don't think he is aware of what he actually wants, or if he is, he feels like he can't do that. And I feel like he needs to be more honest with himself about that.
Sure. So we get on to Michelle's date and we're like, oh, fuck. Like, this isn't going to go well. But, you know, she feels like he is her person. And so Matt's making her rappel down the side of a building. And I was like, okay, this is definitely his clues that he's going to be breaking up with someone and having a very friendly date, a very friend zone-y date. So, I mean, I like the idea of repelling in general, and they've had another date where they did some fun activities, but for their final date, I thought it should be a little bit more romantic.
What was the setup of this?
I don't know.
A couch on
like a racetrack?
A plane runway?
Yeah, it was runway.
That appeared to be like taped around the shape of a heart. This show loves to put shit in the middle of nowhere and like sparsely dress it up, and it looks so chaotic and random. Like, what on earth was this? Like, rappel down this building and then we're gonna go sit on this random couch on a runway? What? I can't. Like, what the hell?
Meeting, being like, okay, so like, is this like, feel me out, hear me out. And then they repel halfway. He's so awkward at repelling, and he got awkwardly, and I was just not here for it, because I've been trying to be attracted to Matt, and like I just couldn't do it. There's no part of this episode that made me attracted to this man. So they get down to the landing, and they had like another awkward kiss. And just to reiterate, BB's like, maybe Matt's past one broke up with him for bad kissing, and we're not willing to help him correct his bad kissing. LOL. I mean, I could see bad kissing making them feel as though they don't have a connection. Right? And if he doesn't have that much of a personality, like, maybe you don't want to.
It doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't help if the kissing is bad.
At all.
But people can learn. People can learn how to be better. That's like, it just needs somebody who actually is willing to take the time to help him.
They walk over to their little couch in the middle of the runway, and she keeps on talking about how it feels right, and it feels right with him, and I'm just like, just stop talking about this, Michelle. I don't like, you're gonna get, the more you say it, the more you're gonna get hurt. And when she was talking to him, he's put on that face. There's a face that he gets when he's gonna break up with somebody that's saying nice things to him. It's kind of like this, like, and I was like, oh boy, there's the face. I'm like, is he gonna break up with her now or later? And he didn't break up with her then. I was surprised though. And so there's the night portion of the date. They're sitting down, and it was kind of casualized. And he had that dead stare looking at her. And I was like, okay, it's coming. He's looking for the right time to interject with, you're not my person. And so he lets her give him gifts of their Mr. and Mrs. jerseys, which is such a cute little gift. I'm always down with the dress up, and like, I think I'd be embarrassing and cheesy like that with like my partner, just because it's just so gimmicky and like hilarious. And lets him give her that, or her give him that, and then he tells her that he has doubts about their relationship. WTF?
No, not after she gave the gifts. Come on. I think that's why the breakup didn't happen at the runway couch, because production knew that she was going to present him with these jerseys, which I'm sure they helped her wrap, aka place haphazardly into these two like crinkled bags. And knew that the juxtaposition of her being like so sure and presenting these jerseys that like symbolize their future together, then met with him like having to break up with her, is like about as uncomfortable as you could make the scene. And they definitely wanted to catch that on film. And kind of like when Becca and Ari had that like entire interaction after when they end their engagement, kind of like that, where they're like, there's no way this is not going to be so awkward.
That was bad, really bad. This wasn't as bad, I don't
Not
think.
as bad, no.
That was terrible. So Matt says that this is the first time he felt anything other than wanting to be with her forever. That is even worse, I think, for him to say. This is the first time? Like, no. It had to have happened sooner. It wasn't the first time. Like, because you weren't picking her from before this. So you were picking Rachel. So I didn't even like that he lied about that. I really wish that he said, like, you know, I do really like you. I think you're a really great woman. And I fell into being on this show and not knowing what I can say and how truthful I could be, and having to bring someone to the final two that I really do like. But I've always felt that it was going to be Rachel. I always felt that, or something, or I felt that, whatever, tell like that actual moment, so she could at least see when he was faking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that would be helpful for her to be like, oh, so he wasn't faking it, and then he just decided like yesterday that he wasn't into me anymore. No, that's definitely not the case. Like, it was probably a month ago at least where he knew that Rachel was going to be his number one pick, and at least tell her that, so she could be like, okay, now I can see when you did this. Okay, that wasn't genuine, and oh, I felt something here. Like, she could just start replaying the scenarios, and so and understand and get some closure a little bit. So the slide there was annoying to me.
Yeah.
She asked, "Am I supposed to fight for you?" Like, that's a question. Is she? I want to know the answer.
Apparently, that's the strategy that works on Matt. So, every single girl that's tried to maybe even self-eliminate has stayed because they are fighting for staying there, or they're conflicted. And Michelle's just not. She's confident in herself and she knows who she is, so she doesn't need to play that game. I appreciated that she did kind of call that out, and she had every right to be pissed about how this went down. This was a terrible breakup to watch. I did not enjoy seeing it play out.
And, you know, Michelle, obviously heartbroken, is like, you feel like you have a connection with somebody, and then with a flick of a switch, it's gone. And he touches her, and I'm thinking, I'm like, ew, I wrote down, ew, don't touch her. Don't touch her. And then he says, I don't think I can get there with you. I was like, go F you. I'm like, poor Michelle, F you. And then he says, I'm sorry. Like, that's not an I'm sorry. I'm sorry does not cut it here at all.
No.
At all.
No.
This is not an I'm sorry moment. Like,
no.
This, like, give her more information here, because I'm sorry is not enough. And then he's alone crying after, because he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Like, he didn't want to hurt Michelle, but he wanted to be honest with her. Well, he should have been honest with her.
This might be the time. This may be the time. Okay. Well, how did you all feel about this breakup? Because it was extremely uncomfortable. Yes, there's a comment here from Caitlin. It says he even said at one of the earlier rose ceremonies that they should only stay if they could see themselves getting engaged at the end. Yes, exactly. It's a point that I was making, or he's been telegraphing the exact opposite. Tamika, I kept saying why he's still kissing her and touching her. It's just weirdo moves for a breakup, and I understand why Michelle was so confused. Totally. And I think she physically like pulled away from him after a certain point when he kept like being close to her and everything. It's just like he didn't understand, like, if he had to get this information across to Michelle to understand that like he wasn't going to be able to get there, the signals that he was giving her physically and the things that he was saying were like so opposite of what he was doing, that I understand why she was like, what's going on here, you know? Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. I'm just like, I was just not into how he handled her feelings here. And, you know, I was saying before, like, you know, like, I owe it to these women to be honest with them. And it's like, yeah, you do. But, like, you also owe it to them to give them a little bit more than you're just not my person when you're supposed to be proposing to one of them tomorrow. It's just, I thought it was really problematic how he managed his feelings here and how he interacted with people that were laying it out on the line for him. We were being completely open and upfront with him. And I get it. He wasn't able to be fully as frank as he might have wanted to be, or would have been in real life, and got kind of caught up in the show. I understand that. But if his ultimate objective is not to hurt these women and to be honest and truthful, he didn't do any of that. And so pissed me off. And so wait, so then he's back with Chris after this? Like, are you okay? And he's like, no. Like, ugh.
This is the footage. This is the scene that we've been seeing in all of the previews. So we were kind of wrong that we thought it might have to do with his family, which I guess it kind of is born out of that, but it's really the event of him breaking up with Michelle. And then again, Chris on the curb here, like, could you just like be empathetic? Like, just like, ugh. Like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to like deal with him in the franchise if and when he returns, because I just can't look at it differently anymore. Like, everything he does tonally just feels so bad to me now. So yeah, it was just awkward. It was just awkward.
We've been getting on Matt about his kissing, but all I can stare at with Chris is just like he doesn't have any lips at all, and so it's just kind of like a line, and just looks so angry and mean. Like, even though he's just probably his resting face, he's probably not as angry, but like just the lipness just seems so grim and like you know, and that's all I was staring at was his lips or like the line.
I honestly don't think Matt even wanted to talk to Chris. Like, basically at the end of it, he was like, I just need to be by myself, and walked away because what is there to talk to this man about anymore? Just like take some space, take some time.
Take a moment. But Chris does ask, like, where do you go from here? He says he just needs some time. What does he say to Rachel? And then you see Rachel is excited for her date and that she feels like he's her person. And like, whatever we're doing, I just can't wait to see him. And like, this is obviously with seeing him on the curb with Chris. What do I do about Rachel? I'm like, is he breaking up with both of them? And then the audacity to send Chris to Rachel's apartment, and she's all excited thinking that it's something, you know, fun about Matt. And then it's like, I think he gave her a gift card.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, the card comes after. Yeah,
he just tells her that Matt's not going to be on the date today, or like he's canceling it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
the date's canceled.
What the F? That's rude. I think that's really rude. Like,
it is rude. She was pissed. She was pissed it was canceled. You could tell she's like, I just did my makeup. Like, she like just got ready and she was like, what do you mean? And then I wrote this down because I was like, it went into a moment where she was like doing one of her talking heads. And I was like, this voice that she's using, like, what is this voice? I recognize this voice. And I'm like, oh, it's the voice she uses in her apology video. That's the voice that it is. Oh, which she uses also again later on too. And I was just like, okay, she's once again in character.
Like the victim that needs to be taken care of by the strong man.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of, I thought it was kind of weird though. Okay, so he needs more time, so no date, whatever. She seemed kind of weirdly smiley in the beginning though, and it's like I don't know, she probably didn't know how to react or whatever, and like it was weird how she immediately reacted, and then she started tears or whatever. Cut to Matt talking to Neil Lane. I'm sorry, what?
I love this. Like, he just said he needed time. So naturally, the best thing to do is to get Neil Lane to roll up with a briefcase full of rings for us to just look at. You don't actually have to pick one, Matt. I just mean, like, what? What kind of a pivot is this? The man needs like some solitude. And so they're like, now's the time to send Neil over. And I literally think that Neil Lane comes across as a Bond villain. Like, honestly. He's like with the briefcase and everything, and just like the music that was underscoring and everything about him seems so sus to me. I was like, this is now a James Bond movie, and the villain for the film is Neil.
Oh my God, I can see it. I see it. But Matt's like, you know, he wants to know what it means to be a man and take accountability for things. I'm just like, you haven't taken accountability for everything, and this is not the right time to be doing it in this fashion. But okay, hold the ring. I mean, I thought it was was beautiful seeing the rings, and I was like, maybe it would make him realize like, oh, I do want to have this moment with Rachel. Like maybe that's what they were hoping for, that would jog him into like wanting to have that experience with her. But and I thought that what Neil Lane said was that a ring connects two hearts. I thought it was beautiful. And like, I don't necessarily believe in the paper of marriage and like, but I do believe in the gesture of it and the declaration that, hey, like I'm choosing this person to represent me and be part of my life forever. And I'm sharing that declaration with the world. So I do think it's a beautiful kind of gesture. So I don't think though that he understands that part. Like I don't think he gets that romance and that like that love energy. And so I don't think this was going to jog him and like year into him wanting to propose.
It felt like production's last line defense, like after Chris's harsh approach didn't take and actually pissed Matt off more. They're like, okay guys, like honestly, this is our Hail Mary. We're going to send Neil in with the rings and to try and have him give some advice and like fingers crossed, like maybe he'll convince Matt to propose. Like that's what that felt like to me. They were just like, send in Neil. Let's go.
Neil,
let's give it a try. It might not work, but it's worth a shot. Like, come on.
We got a finale to film here. Let's do it. So he picks the pear-shaped one and he wants to hold on to it. Next morning, Rachel gets a date card. Meet me at the lake. Matt. I was just like, I rolled like the meet me at the lake bullshit. Like,
me too.
Okay. And I said, like, I don't even know if I would go. I would be like, fuck you, man. Like, you didn't show up on a date unannounced, and then I just get a random date card telling me to show up somewhere. I'd be like, F off. Like, no thanks.
Like, just give me the heads up if you're going to break up with me so I can just show up in what I'm going to wear on the plane, because I don't need to be getting ready again for something to not be happening.
And then we see him in like the limo or whatever, and he's in a suit. I'm like, why is he in a suit? And then I'm like, is he proposing? What the fuck? So Chris shows up and talks to Matt, and he's like, I love Rachel. I was like, okay. Okay. And this is like, you're my friend.
Yeah.
So then I wrote down, okay, I wonder if this is kind of what makes men want to run. Is like no longer wanting to trust their feelings, instead wanting to control things. Because like it seems as though as soon as things got too real, he wanted to be like, well, what if it ends, right? And so I think that it's not allowing himself to completely be vulnerable and fall into these moments. So with Rachel, I think that he felt safe with being in a relationship with him because he's more in control of that relationship, and he probably subtly knows that she's not really that into him, that it's not going to be a forever thing with him. I think he knows that it's more transient of a relationship, and like that's what he felt deep down inside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that he knew that she would be actually willing to make a long-lasting committed relationship with him. And I think that he ran from that and trusting in that relationship with like the mom being able to say like, well, love fades and like, don't break her heart. Like, mm-hmm. I think it allowed him to be like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in here because I know that she'd actually would be here. And I don't know if I want to actually make that commitment because it's too vulnerable for me to say, yes, I trust you with my heart. And so that's kind of what I was looking at in this situation. With his love, is his love enough, and his apprehension. I definitely think he was detecting that the Rachel relationship wasn't going to be long lasting, and he's more comfortable in relationships that end.
Yeah,
he's more familiar with that.
Or in like, he didn't know then what he knows now, so it is possible that maybe he knew that it was going to end, or maybe not, but like he was still willing to try at that point in time to like still salvage it in some way. And then as we come to find out, obviously that did not play out that way. But I think like, I do think he intended on like trying to date her. That's all. I think he intended on trying to date her still. Like it didn't feel like a promise or a commitment or anything. It just felt like I think we should try dating like out of here.
Fine. Like, who cares? Whatever. But Rachel meets up with Chris and then over to Matt. And then it's like in a proposal type scenario. And
fireplace in the middle of nowhere.
I was like, what's happening? And he's like, I hated the thought that I hurt you. And like, she says, though, that she is not going to run when it gets tough. And doesn't know if he still wants it, which is a really fair thing for her to be asking, because like, why are they in this kind of proposal thing? And he just basically canceled on their final date. But she does say, I'll choose you every day from here on out. And then he says the easy thing for me to do is to propose to you, but I don't want to take the easy route. Like, pardon? That's
He's trying to package this up as like being a positive for her. He's like, I know I should propose to you, but I'm not doing that. And that shows you how much I care about you. It's like, okay. Mixed messages.
He's like, that's why I can't propose to you today. It doesn't mean I want to lose you. I want to leave here with you. It's like, okay, so you wanted a girlfriend, which is fine. You didn't want a fiance or a wife. You wanted a girlfriend, and she's hot and like fun, and you want to bang her, like cool. Mm-hmm. But like, don't pretend like you wanted to be engaged this whole time.
No.
And he says the truth is that I love you. And I do see you as my wife and mother of my kids. I want to make sure that my love is enough for you. Get out of here. Get out of here. I was so annoyed.
A non-event.
Then there's one more thing. Gives her the final effing rose. Like, this isn't good, Matt. Like, I'm like, I'm not satisfied with this ending. White horse and carriage. I keep cringing is what I wrote down.
I know. It was just nothing happened. Like, there was no climax to this whatsoever. It was just a non-event, honestly. And then they tried to dress it up as a fancy moment with the horse and carriage and the set and her dress, which was gorgeous. Honestly, that was a really beautiful dress. And the setting and the snow and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can dress it up as much as you want. This was very uneventful and unsatisfying. And I don't even know that I want him to end up with her anyways, especially like knowing everything that we know. But I just like, whatever this was not it for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just catch up on these comments, and then we can also be talking about after the final rose. Tamika says, "Oh, Rachel was so fake. Patty wasn't feeling her until the Christian combo." Shaking my head. Yeah, do you know what? That's true. She sold. That was her Hail Mary. There, she sold her love for him with bringing in the prayer. Tanya, there are people who agree with you. Rachel definitely used a religion angle with Patty. I mean,
yes. Some people, I was speaking more so about some practicing Christians who disagree with me and I've commented that essentially it's like, how can I judge someone's reaction to religion in that way? Like, you know, that's not okay. And yes, but it was fake. So sorry.
Although Matt's mom didn't want Matt to get married, it felt like she was putting her insecurities about being a divorced woman onto Matt. 100%. I do feel like there was a little bit of like that mother-son, don't want her son to go off type energy. That's what I was picking up. Do you all get the vibe that Matt may not necessarily be into women, if you're catching what I'm throwing?
I can't say that I picked up on that, but
asexual over homosexual. I do feel that he enjoys his relationship with Tyler, but I think that it's just he's comfortable in men, like relationships and friendships with guys, and he's just not experienced and comfortable with relationships with women. And so I'd say more asexual because of his inexperience. I felt as though Colton might have been gay. And who else I said somebody else recently.
I can't remember. I know for Colton, that's been, I mean, I don't like to like, hypothesize about people's sexual preferences or anything, but I know that people had been discussing that online in regards to Colton. I don't know.
He did pick it up in his book that he was questioning.
Oh, yes. Perfect. Yeah. I remember you referenced him directly for that, but I couldn't remember what the context was.
It was for Love Island with Connor. Is it Connor and Mackenzie?
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt as though he gave off an asexual vibe as well. And I think it's the inexperiencedness is that maybe. So, yeah, I think that inexperiencedness, maybe he's had thoughts or stuff that he's not acted out on. Who knows? But it does seem that those who are not well-versed in relationship, the only thing that it makes us understand is like maybe he's into the other sex. But I think that, or the same sex, but I think that it's because they're not well-versed and are completely comfortable in their own sexuality that we don't understand it. So I think I don't know, but I think he's just inexperienced. And he might not even know fully.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hear that TBS ordered The Big D, a dating show hosted by JoJo and Jordan, where they help divorced couples move on after filing divorce? No. I love that idea, Joseph. I do like them, actually. They do seem to get along, and it's not just like a big sham. So yeah, I would definitely watch that. I will, if you can remind me, actually, if I have a pen, I'm gonna write that down because I want to look that up. So I would watch that, The Big D. Okay, so Tayshia and Zach breakup rumors. I believe that was all untrue. That basically the mom, I don't know if she had unfollowed by accident or on purpose or whatnot, but she unfollowed the clickbait podcast that Tayshia does, and then unfollowed her or something, and then it was untrue and followed back. I haven't watched her make the statements being like, it's not true, guys. I've only heard that she said this. But as far as I know, those are just rumors, no truth behind it. Scampy friend, okay, LOL, we understand what you mean. Yes, there are people out there who think Matt might be gay or have those vibes. They joke about him and Tyler all the time, LOL. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I just think he's inexperienced. I agree, Tanya. She wanted to win. Do you see how Rachel immediately switched to her Bachelorette performance when she thought she lost because he canceled their last date? That's a interesting state. When Tanya comes back, I'm going to ask her about that. I thought Tanya was going to do her 5 minutes while Chantele was frozen. My ass. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting new internet. I've canceled the one that I have, and I'm going to actually call them and get it now because it's too annoying. Karma, ABC should have chosen Mike instead of Matt. They wanted to get on trend and have Black Bachelor, and then a mess of Rachel and Chris happened. Absolutely. They definitely. Okay, so I want to bring this to your attention. Hold on, where is it? Is it this one? Okay.
Sorry, I had to get a refill because I know we'll get to after the final rose. So
I thought they were gonna be quick too, and then I was like, oh my god, I still have 2 pages left. I'm like, fuck. Okay. So Tamika says, I agree, Tanya. She wanted to win. Did you see how Rachel immediately switched to her Bachelorette performance when she thought she lost because he canceled their last date?
Totally. She totally, she's adaptable. I would say, strategically, what I'll give her credit for in terms of just how she's managed to navigate making it to the end here is she's adapted to the situation very well. So if she thought maybe that she might be in danger, then she'll shift into this mode. But either way, it's still furthering her narrative, her future narrative. So, and you know what? I wonder, I guess we would never know because everything played out the way it did as a result of her actions outside of things too. But I wonder if they had broken up and they hadn't stayed together and we take away everything that we know, and this was just Bachelorette season, she's a contestant that's on and made it to the end with her popularity, would she have been considered to be the lead if the circumstances were different and they didn't stay together? I mean, it's possible,
100%. If 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 the super sleuthers hadn't dug deep and found those photos, like she would have, I think she would have been, well, she would have won. But if they end up breaking up or whatever after, I could see them wanting to have her be the new Bachelorette, 100%. Okay, so let's get into the after the final rose. So Emmanuel Acho is the host here. Now, just to start it off, I felt that he should have practiced his opening like monologue or whatever you want to call it a little bit more. Like, I know he was reading off a teleprompter. I don't know how much familiarity he has with doing that, but I wish that he had said the lines a little bit more and it came off a little bit more natural. I did notice, because like Chris is, maybe because he has his own style and we've been watching him doing it for so long, I don't notice so much that he's saying written scripted words. And so I do wish that just in that opening beat that Emmanuel Acho just was a little bit more having a conversation with us as opposed to presenting some words that he's reading off a screen. But I thought on a whole that he did a really excellent job. I thought how he posed some of the questions were strong, but then also they had compassion. And so I think he did an excellent job. And other than that opening moment, I did not miss Chris Harrison at all.
No, I think he still offered. I think he was mindful of the fact that he's aware of who he's replacing. And like, honestly, people, if you look at ABC's post announcing that Tasha and Caitlin are going to be the hosts for the next season, and you read the comments, like, a lot of people are extremely upset that Chris is not there. Like, there's people out there that are caping for Chris Harrison in a way that I'm like just shocked by, just by virtue of the fact of what he even brings to this show. Like, really, like, what? Like, he's not doing anything that I think requires that level of defense for him staying in his job anyways. But I think Emmanuel is aware that he's still taking on that role. So while he's able to like facilitate different conversations than Chris, he was also still being Chris-like in terms of certain deliveries and like sitting in with certain moments and and the way that he was presenting himself there. I think that awareness was really there. So I could see what he was trying to do. I think he's in a very difficult position, right? Because we know there's a very strong racist or fan base that is engaging in a lot of racism that watches the show. So I think as a black host of this show and the person that they've brought in, he kind of has this impossible task of like representing being black and being black as the host of this and having these conversations with an audience that largely is hateful towards people that look like him. So he does have to be playing into a certain energy or like presenting things in a certain way, knowing that so much of the audience is going to come with vitriol just by the nature of the fact that he's a black man that's replacing Chris Harrison. And I think he had a really difficult job, like I don't think that that's easy.
I thought he handled it really, really well. I didn't miss Chris. I thought that he tackled the points. I mean, I thought he could go a little bit deeper, obviously, but like it was enough for me. It was satisfying, more satisfying than the whole episode, to be honest.
Yeah.
Belle comes out to talk first. I thought she looked gorgeous. She was ready to face Matt. One thing though, the new piece of information that we got was that after that happened, she was really distraught, upset, talking to the producers, and she just wanted to have a 2-minute conversation with Matt just to have some closure as to what happened within the relationship, and he refused. What did you think about that?
First of all, very Oprah-like delivery that you just gave me. Oh my God, I just got chills. Oh, wow. I thought that because of what Matt says later on when he is actually able to come out to the hot seat and speak to her, it seems to me like Michelle was upset, obviously, and wanted to get some closure, which is totally obviously based on how he handled that conversation. Duh. And she probably expressed this to her producers, which she said she was surrounded by, saying, can I please talk to Matt? I want to just have a closure conversation with him. I'm not trying to convince him to keep me. Like, I'm sure that she said that, I think production may have presented that to Matt differently. Not to give him too much credit, because I think he still should have spoken to her anyways. He owed her that much. And that the fact that he didn't do that is messed up. But I do think there was probably an element that was lost in translation, or production intentionally didn't express it the way she expressed it to him. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to talk to her, which is not cool. But I think there was some tomfoolery happening between messages being received.
Broken telephone maybe happened, but like if the
You still
woman
should have.
was you were going to break up with at the final two moment, like they would have talked longer then. You know what I mean? Like if he was standing at the altar with her and breaking up with her, they would have had a full moment. They would have walked her to the car. She would have been able to ask that one question or whatever she wanted to get from him. Like that would have happened if he'd played through it and not wanted to protect her. So he's been saying, like, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for her. I'm being honest. Me being honest is the best here and best for them. And then she asked him for 2 minutes, however it came across.
Yeah.
I would be like, absolutely. I of course I got to give you 2 minutes. Like, I'll give you 10 minutes. I'll give you an hour. This is not the way I wanted things to happen. I'm so sorry. What can I do to make this better for you? Like, and then when she comes out there and she asks him that, he says like, oh, well, if I'd known that you were that upset, then I would have, of course I would have talked to you. It's like, what?
Yeah, no, he absolutely should have. If he knew that she wanted to speak to him, he owed her that much. You were potentially going to marry this person, like feasibly from what we know, considering it maybe at some point in time. You should have a 2-minute conversation with that person. You owe her at least that much. So I understood why she was pissed about that.
100%. And I'm sorry that you were going through it. Like, well, A, you put me through it. And then B, you haven't talked to me in like 5 months now or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, that's not the way to handle someone's feelings and being like, I'm doing the best for you. Like, I was fucking pissed with him about that. She does when she's talking to just Emmanuel alone. He asked her what she felt about Rachel. And I thought that she had a lot of grace how she handled this question by saying things like, you know, that she thinks that Rachel has a good heart, but that she has a lot of growth to do, and that she, you know, inconsiderate of others that don't look like her. And so I thought that how she kind of framed it was in a good way. But I really just didn't like when Matt came onto the stage with Rachel. I mean, with Michelle.
No. I also think, like, I've read some comments online on Reddit about how people feel like Michelle shouldn't have said that she thinks Rachel has a good heart. But you also have to remember, like, look at the way that this entire thing is being framed, right? Like, this is not a show for people who already understand and like have done any type of like research or work or understanding of what like not being racist is. This is like really like 101 for people who don't get it, in the same way that like that's how Emmanuel Acho's book is. It's very much like a primer for people who, like Chris Harrison, seem to not think that like things were racist in 2018, you know, like, so I think that's like the lens and the way that this was presented. So I think Michelle is also aware, as the next lead or one of the next leads, that she also like can't just go hard on Rachel, knowing that she's gonna be on the receiving end of a lot of difficult stuff if she approaches it that way. So she answered it in a way that was compassionate, but also like still with an awareness that like she can't just
shame her.
She can't just shame her, unfortunately, even if she wants to. So I think she still got her point across. But yes, it does seem then like it's coming across soft on Rachel and her actions, but she's just navigating this space that she's about to enter as a lead of this show that hasn't done a good job with leads of color thus far, you know?
And also, though, she is a teacher, and I think that she probably wouldn't want to spew any hate really about Rachel.
No.
Because Rachel is learning right now. And I do think that Rachel, I don't think that she's like intentionally racist. I think that she's completely ignorant to a lot of things, and that's because of her privilege and where she's grown up. And like, I don't think that she was intentionally trying to be bigoted. Like, I don't think so. So I could see her having a good heart for the most part. I do think that she was calculated in her relationship with Matt, but I don't think that she's an evil person, you know, personally. So yeah, I was annoyed with Matt's response to, and just started complimenting her, and I was like, that's like, no, that's not it. But he says, I'm sorry. She says, I appreciate that. And then she gives him a dig, which I was happy about, like kissing with your eyes open, and to come up with phrases other than thanks for sharing. Gives him a little dig that she's probably like, you know what? I'm actually good with not being with you, because most likely I'm going to find someone equally as good or better than the Bachelorette. Now, do you think that Matt knew that she was going to be the Bachelorette yet?
I feel like he must have known going into this interview because of the setup of the day. Maybe he didn't, but I imagine he would have known. And I was so glad she got that shade in on him. I was like, that's great. Like, she came out on top here. We're here for Michelle. We've loved her from that first moment that she came in and her date with Matt. I'm really like actually looking forward to her as a lead. Mm-hmm. I like her a lot as a person from what we've seen. So I'm glad that she ultimately does come out on top here. And all the better for not being with Matt currently, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they both lucked out, I think. I don't think he's a catch, to be honest. So Matt's talking to Emmanuel him alone, and he asks, like, what does it feel like to be the first Bachelor? And Matt and asking also about like the stuff that started coming up about Rachel. And so Matt says that he dismissed everything as rumors because he's obviously together with Rachel at that point, mm-hmm. and confronted her, and then was looking forward to see her put in the work. He says that they had broke up, and that wants to talk to, well, then Emmanuel says that he wants to talk to Rachel first. So I was really like, so you weren't upset with Rachel immediately. You took it as rumors. How is that rumors? How did you think that Matt answered this question is basically what I want to know.
He said something that was like, so he was saying that he had heard about the rumors. I'm assuming he's referring to the rumors that were on TikTok about like her in high school, and then about like the photos that she was liking, which is not a rumor. She did like them, but like, you know, that stuff. And then I guess like when the photos came out, that was later on. So I think that's what he was referring to with the rumors. But at one point he said like it's after all that happened that he wasn't aware if Rachel like knew what it was like to be Black in America. And I was like, well, obviously not. Like, is that what he was looking for from her? Like, I'm not justifying literally anything that she's done ever, but I'm just like was confused by that take that he offered, because I was like, well, of course she doesn't. Like, obviously not.
What he meant was that it probably became glaringly obvious that she wasn't going to be able to raise a Black son. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, he wasn't going to have the tools to give them the education that they would need to stay alive in America. Basically.
Sure. And I don't think she understands what it's like to be Black in America, obviously, for a variety of reasons. Like, she clearly doesn't understand the implications of, or now she seems to understand what was wrong with the photos now, right? Like, so yes, obviously not. But yeah, I was just confused by the way he said it. That makes sense though, what you're explaining.
Well, you kind of think when you actually are thinking about somebody being the father of your parents of your children. Okay, the mother of my child. Okay, fine, but the mother of a Black child is a little bit different, and is somebody
right.
doing that. And like, even in my life, I've recently realized that I'm going to have to lose a friendship because they weren't able to just stand up for me in times where I was being kind of harassed. And I was realizing that not everybody is equipped and able to stand up for somebody that is receiving some social bias or racial biases and hate for the color of their skin. And so I realized that, like, oh, I was expecting this person to be a friend of mine that would be willing to go to town and go and be there when I'm not and stand up and protect me in a certain way because they're my friend. But then I realized that they're actually not equipped to doing that because of their upbringing, what they know, what they've learned, how much growth they've had in that department. I think he just realized now that, yeah, she may be open to dating a black man, but I don't think she's open yet to standing up for a black man, being the mother of a black child. Like, she's just not there yet. And so I think
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense too, because he was also kind of like, I stood by her when the rumors and things were happening and was helping her navigate that up until the point where she chose to make a statement. Then yeah, it's, you know, like, it's one thing that she doesn't understand, obviously, you know, an experience that she doesn't live, but then another thing that she really on a fundamental level doesn't understand, like, so much about this conversation that, like, that's a completely different story. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm helping you navigate this situation. It's another to be like, oh, like, big picture, there's a lot of work you need to do for you to even be in a place where I can date you, period. Right.
Even if it's just like, it's just, there's so many instances that will come up that she's not even thinking of, like whether it's him being pulled over by the police because he's black, and then the police officer asking, like, ma'am, are you okay? Ma'am, are you okay? Right. Like, that's something that's very, very regular for black men to get pulled over, and if they're with a white person in the car, making sure that the white person's okay. That's just like normal day-to-day activities. Is she ready for that? Is she ready to get hate from people, like, for being in a relationship with a black person? Like, there's all these stuff that she I don't think she even realizes is that she needs to consider, and that I think that he considered now that this came up, that he didn't realize was as important as it actually is.
That's fair.
We can probably talk about it now, Sam, so we'll get into the pickings of the Bachelorette later, but I hope that there's a black Bachelorette that has darker skin. The Bachelorettes have been mixed mostly, which impacts things and their life. Absolutely. Rachel has been the only full black Bachelor with a black mother and father, or full black. And most of the people even that are cast in the show, I mean, I guess there's a mix, but Michelle is half. Bree is mixed.
Yeah.
Even Serena P, I thought she was black, but it seems like her mom seems maybe Indian, Pakistani maybe. And who else was there? A lot of the women, though. Piper, she looks mixed to me. So, and Matt obviously is mixed. So I do wish that they had someone that had, like, a black mother and a black father that's had that upbringing, to see what their experience on the Bachelor would be like. Because then there wouldn't be that out for them, like, oh, I have to appease both the white side of me and the black side of me. Like, no, you don't really. You could just choose whoever you want. But the fact that you feel as though you need to choose somebody black, that's the problem here, Matt. So Keisha says, don't all Bachelor parents wonder if the Bachelor is ready to get married, or if they don't know each other, or if they really know each other? I feel like that's what most parents say, getting married on reality TV to someone you just met. Absolutely.
I mean, remember last year, though? Bring her home to us. They don't always feel that way. I think naturally a parent that's, like, not to, you know, insult Barb last year, but I think naturally a parent that's, like, maybe a little bit more, like, with it in terms of the situation would be like, yeah, you should feel doubts about this. But we do see some parents sometimes on the show that are just like, so happy for you. I'm glad this is happening. And I've always felt kind of strange about that playing out that way.
I'm watching Married at First Sight right now, and I'm like, I'm kind of down. Like, I don't know, take a leap of faith sometimes. Is it that bad if it doesn't work out for you to get divorced? Is it that bad? I mean, it could be. I'm not super religious, and I do feel it's a very strong commitment, and, like, I would only want to ever do it once, 100%. But I don't know if it's, now that I've seen Married at First Sight, that it's completely impossible for them to be at a place where marriage is appropriate. So I'm like in the middle. Chantele, Tanya in the chat, if Mike Johnson had been the Bachelor, who would he have chosen? All opinions are welcome. Oh, women? Ooh.
I think he would have been into someone like Mari. Like,
ooh, yes.
I could picture that like being his type of girl.
Maybe even a Brie in there. Yeah. Like Brie, I think he likes that Latina / Italian, like European flavor. It seems like what he likes. I'm just kind of like using Angela as his like model right now.
Yeah, maybe that's in my mind. I don't know. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Stunning. Mari and Brie is who jumps out.
And also, when he was on Paradise, was he not like kind of into Angela? Not Angela? Was her name also Angela?
That was with Clay.
Yeah.
I think it's Angela.
Did Mike have a thing with her on Paradise, or am I now just like thinking of everything differently? I can't remember. It's all blending together.
But that doesn't sound unfamiliar, so I'll say yes.
Ooh, I could be wrong.
So according to Ashley I, she said the final rose was 7 hours of conversation. ABC only showed 1 hour of the conversation. Rachel and Michelle had a conversation about race. Brie was there and had a conversation. Yeah, I did hear that Brie was there, and I haven't watched the whole interview, but she's on Nick Viall's podcast and talks about the fact that her segment didn't air. So I will be catching up on that as well. But we're probably going to take a hiatus from Bachelor content until the next one comes up, because I mean, I like after the final rose, I find is more interesting. I really didn't like that final episode. Who's the most underrated Bachelor? I didn't really like any of them.
I know they're all pretty terrible. I have to think. So I have to think about when I first watched the show, which I think the first show that I watched live, I thought it was Jake, but I think it was actually for Bachelor's Brad Womack's second season. I can't remember which one came first. And I'm not saying that he's my choice. I'm just trying to remember when I began so I can think of everybody after that.
I've never really been vibing with the Bachelors. They're never my type of guy. I remember in the early seasons, they had like choose between two guys, and the guys that the audience chose it was probably like Byron or something, but I thought that the other guy was more attractive. I can't remember how that season started. That was the only time there was a guy that I thought was attractive, and they didn't go with him. So
yeah,
I don't think
I'm looking at, oh yikes. Okay, so technically Jake's season was before Brad, so that would have been the first one I watched, but I have also seen like later on past the time when it aired Jason's season, Jason Mesnick. And I think that that's going to be my choice for most underrated, simply because he got shat on for doing what he did in choosing someone and then picking someone else. But it seems to me like he did make the right choice long term. He's still with Molly. They have a life together. They have kids together. I think he got cast and put in a negative light for doing what he did, which of course is terrible. And like we saw that play out again with Ari and Becca, and it's like never nice to see. But I do think that he's probably the most underrated for that reason. I think the most overrated is Ben Higgins 100%. I don't understand why everyone likes him so much.
Me neither. Agreed. I'll agree with you with the Jason Mesnick. I was really mad at him for, what's her name, Melissa, for what he did to her. So I was just not on his train. But if we talk about like maybe the drama of it all, I could say that I could agree with you of being underrated. So, and yeah, I was just like Ben, like I just went nobody. I don't know how to be loved or whatever his line was. I'm just like, I don't care.
Unlovable.
Thank you. Jesse Palmer was an athlete, football player who was the Bachelor. Matt and Colton were also failed pro football players. Failed.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike would have come down to Piper. She's really into him. Chelsea because of course, Michelle because of course, and Brie because of course.
I could see that.
I could see him like going toe to toe with Chelsea, like them having like a little like a fiery relationship. Dino is here for an athlete bachelor. Yes, let's bring it back
Let's
to
do
like, come on. LOL, I wonder, but you're onto something. Yes, she is onto something. I just make Matt the next freaking bachelor. Like, listen to us sometimes, please. Kisha, sometimes people chose the people who doesn't have deep feels for them if they're not looking for something serious. I think that was what Matt did. He thought that he and Rachel were on the same level. I mean, I agree. I think that he knew deep down that Rachel was the safe relationship because he didn't have to fully commit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Mari could have snuck in there. She also seems his type. You are agreeing with Tanya here. B Bean thinks Mari too. Said to knock someone who is your type. Oh, wait, Tasha said to
not knock someone who is your type.
What does that mean?
Maybe not pick. Or maybe
just because they're your type, not to throw them away, like still give them a chance. Like, because like your type hasn't always worked, then like just because they're your type doesn't mean that they're bad. Like they still actually good for you.
Or vice versa, like don't knock someone who's not your type because you might actually, like in the case of Tasha, I don't think maybe Zach was on paper to take Love Island phrases on paper her type, but like she ended up, obviously it seems having a really nice relationship with him. So
I'm talking about the rumor that Matt slept with Piper in the woods. Remember the condom found in the woods? That would make sense why she was so pissed, though. That's pretty.
I mean, no.
That's why I would have loved a season with him. But yeah, because you'd have all different sides of women. Oh my God! Wow, I do remember the condom story. I don't remember the condom story.
I'm confused what that's in reference to.
Did I block it out? Sorry, isn't your type. That's the point of the show, is that would have been her advice to Michelle. Okay, yeah. It's like, don't go with somebody that isn't your type just because they're not your type. They are your type. I get it. I think. I'm just not saying it well. Do you think it could be true? I could see it being true, Ross. Bean agrees. Possibility, yes. They both had a lot of pent-up frustration by that point. Okay, LOL. I know that she was upset when he sent her home. Exactly, I agree. Yes. Okay, we're this far behind. Jesus, I'm catching up, guys. So Kristen did a lot of voice work these last 2 episodes. Absolutely. They just like put in sound bites for Chris to appease Bachelor Nation for sure. Can you imagine if Acho was there for Matt for those side moments where Matt needed to talk to Chris? I mean, I think it would have been really good if Acho was there.
That would have been better than whatever that conversation was with Chris.
They're terrible, both of them.
God.
Can you imagine if Chris was in Acho's chair during After the Final Rose? Would have been so cringe.
Well, it definitely wouldn't have been this way. Yeah.
Good at all. Chris was like forcing an engagement, like he gets a bonus for it. It was disgusting. No apathy. He must get a bonus for it. They need Matt to get engaged so they could have a wedding show out of it. I think they're going to do that. They haven't done that in a while. Was the only one that felt bad for Matt's dad. I felt like the conversation should have been in private. I don't agree with his what his dad did, but to confront him on camera like that felt like an ambush. Of course, yeah, absolutely. Last week we talked a lot about the fact that we don't think his father knew that was the way that the conversation was going to be going. And then also Rachel Lindsay mentioned that Matt didn't approve or want to have that conversation be aired. So I did feel bad for the father, like having to like have these 25-year-old feelings and like.
Yeah, absolutely. We felt for him, and that whole thing was awful. We discussed last week, like terrible.
This is a good point, Joseph. So if Matt didn't want to propose, he wasted the entire cast's time. Absolutely. It almost felt like they wanted Michelle as Bachelorette so we wouldn't feel sorry for her.
Maybe they need to think about like changing up. Like, I'm not saying that you have to abandon the idea that someone needs to get proposed to at the end, but maybe if you're casting the lead as somebody desirable that people would want to be with, that it can be like reflective of that person. Like for someone like Michelle, let's say, we can tell that that's what she wants. So that feels like the right thing to be the end point. But if you're going to be like, oh, this is Matt and we're like selling Matt and that's what we want, maybe the proposal shouldn't have been Endgame, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that people disagree with the idea that getting married or being, you know, engaged after this amount of time is like not realistic. So like, is that still what we require the end point to be of the show? I don't know. Like for some people, maybe that is why they tune in. I have no idea.
Okay, so let's button up the after the final rose, and then I'll get through these comments so we don't go too much longer. I mean, this is going to be the last of us for a little while talking about the Bachelor content, unless some big things happen in the industry.
Yeah.
So fine, it's going to be probably, well, as long as it usually is, at least.
Yeah.
So Rachel is talking to Acho by herself and saying that she doesn't want to victimize himself. Acho gives the definition of antebellum, which means before the war, which means before they freed slaves. And so that's why it's so problematic. He didn't obviously even know that. And so, you know, he says he sees somebody that's living in ignorance and asks her who she blamed for her ignorance. And she didn't really respond to that in a way that made sense to me. She didn't really say, she's like, I don't want to blame my parents or whatever. And then he even asked, what work have you been doing? Because he says, okay, his history is meant to be remembered, not necessarily celebrated. He asked, why did you wait so long for an apology or to release a statement? She didn't really respond in a way that was satisfying to me at all. And even when he said, what work are you doing now? She's like, I don't want to just give off a list of what I'm doing. It's like, well, I do.
Yeah.
You just be like, you know, it's never going to be enough. Like right now, like I'm seeing a racial bias coach, and I am also taking it part to myself to going through a list of resources and educating myself that way. Well, what's wrong with her saying that?
Yeah. I too felt like she could have like actually said some things that she was doing.
Yeah,
like I understand, no matter, like I get that, like no matter what you say, people are gonna scrutinize, blah blah blah. But like, and this is the work, like the doing the work thing is like, doesn't matter like how many books you read or like I get what she was saying in terms of that, but also like, please share what you've been doing. Because that's what you said that you were gonna be like bringing people along
with her and to see what she's doing so that they can like learn from her mistakes and share this growth experience with her. So the fact that she just like deflected every time she was asked what she was doing was annoying to me. And I thought that she was going to joke and be like, I read your book, like, or something like that. And then maybe you could be like, so what was your takeaway from that book? And that would have been something that would have been satisfying for me to hear her takeaway. I want to hear her takeaway, not just saying coached words that are appropriate for the situation. So Matt comes in and joins Rachel, and he was just like, he was quite cold. And like, I just didn't, when I was saying that, I kind of felt bad for Rachel a little bit. Like, I do think that she's a little bit naive and young and didn't really realize the brevity of her, you know, her decisions and all that stuff. And like the guy that she was into broke up with her, and like he's now giving her the cold shoulder. And like I just felt a little bit bad for her, just because it just seemed like she was like this like wounded little bird that like he's being so mean to, and she doesn't really understand why, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that. To me, it was more like I felt like everything she was saying was still really centering herself, and that the reasons why she was upset was because Matt broke up with her, and like he like it felt like she was upset that he did that to her, as opposed to, I think, really understanding like why that would have been difficult for him, you know. Like I think she's still like mostly devastated by the fact that happened, but there's just like, I don't know. I mean, I just think for me, it was very telling how she's been presented this entire season. No fault of her own, but they really have chosen to not show us too much of anything that she's done other than these moments where She's presented as the front runner. She's not in the girl drama. Like, they very intentionally showed the pieces of Rachel that we see. And I think when they frame this conversation and after the final rose this way, like, speaking to fellow like white folks out there, I'm not saying don't feel sorry for her, but I'm saying think about maybe why you more immediately feel sorry for her and the way that they're kind of leveraging like her tears and emotions to further a certain narrative. Like, just consider where that could be to other white people. I'm saying, obviously, like, I know you understand what I'm saying, but I just mean like in general, like maybe being more critical.
Manipulated, but I can't talk today. Manipulated by, because like I was calling her out for the fact that she's sitting on the floor trying to look, low status, like when she's making her apology and like everything was calculated. So maybe the calculation of how they're presenting her, maybe I'm buying into this narrative when he comes out onto the stage kind of pissed off and angry at her. So yeah, I can agree with you for sure that that it is to perpetuate the white audience for feeling sorry for her, and that the big bad black man like did her wrong and she's doing the work and he's still being mean to her. So yeah, I can
right.
I can
and that people do feel sorry for her, like in a way that's really, I feel like she's taken on this position where people are living through their own like racism being called out. So it's like other white folks are quick to jump on defending her because she represents like something that they see reflected in themselves. So it's a very telling how they've chosen to present her. And again, I'm not saying don't sympathize for her, because I would never tell people how to feel about something, but I'm just saying think critically about how it's being presented, because there's a reason why people feel the way they feel in situations like this. And when they weaponize white women's tears in this way, it happens a lot. And like,
I think for me, I guess like I'm annoyed with Matt and how he's treated both of them. And I think that, that was kind of what was coloring my feelings when I was originally watching it, because I just watched the episode. I thought that he didn't take care of either of them.
He didn't.
In a respectful way. And so I was kind of leading that into how he was treating her now. It's like, well, she deserves to have you like talk to her. Like, I'm just kind of mad with how he dealt with everything beforehand. So, but I 100% agree with you that, have a little more critical thinking with feeling bad for her in this particular moment. For this particular reason, I'm kind of buttoning it all up together with how he's been in a relationship with her. I don't think great. But in this one incident where we're talking about him breaking up with her over the racial injustices, that's completely different. So I put them together, but separate. I definitely don't feel sorry for her.
No. Or I don't feel, I feel like they're still ultimately like really, she was saying the things of accountability, like she was voicing the things of accountability, like when Emmanuel was pressing her to say like, oh God, how did he phrase it? She didn't make excuses. She was like, what I did was wrong. People have told me that it wasn't wrong, but it is. Like, she was saying all of those things. Like, I get it. But I think at the end of the day, the takeaway that I got is I think a lot of people still feel really sorry for her. And like, I don't think that that's contributing positively.
The racist stuff, I don't feel sorry about that. I feel sorry for how he's treating her in relationship on the show.
Totally. And Matt definitely did not do a great job with that whatsoever.
And so, okay. So hi, Caitlin. Thanks for joining us. He said that at one of the earlier rose ceremonies that they should have only stayed if they could see themselves getting engaged at the end. And so this kind of just reiterating the fact that like, I don't know if she realizes that he's not with her because of the racist stuff, because he wasn't completely clear with how he felt in the relationships. And watching back this show, like he didn't do a good job as the Bachelor. So that's kind of where I'm feeling like he owes her more. I think he owes her more a little bit, like in the relationship, not the racist stuff.
Totally. He's like, what is he? Yeah, I agree.
I've never seen Chris push other bachelors for engagement, even though that's the premise of the show. Dale. Feeling the pressure of getting the first Black bachelor engaged for a happy ending. Maybe.
Or maybe they wanted it all to fall apart spectacularly.
Mm-hmm. Wanted to continue the narrative of the Black men like devastating the white woman and not being ready to choose the Black woman. So that perpetuates that stereotype that Black women can never get Black men. Okay, I'm curious, who's the best bachelor, the bachelorette so far in your guys' opinion? So you were saying best was Jason, or that just—
No, I said that was the most underrated. I guess it depends what you consider best. Do you consider best to be like the most entertaining? Do you consider best to be the person that you think is the best? Because like, I always have a hard time answering this question of the seasons that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that I have this opinion, but I guess of the seasons that I've seen, maybe my answer is Nick, only because I enjoyed him as the lead to a certain extent, and I enjoyed the women that were on his season. Nick? Maybe, because
I don't like Nick now, but I didn't mind Nick as the Bachelor.
Like, I could tell you who is definitely not the best, but
Colton.
Peter last season is absolutely one of the worst. Juan Pablo.
They're all bad, pretty much. They don't got their picker right for the Bachelors for sure.
I was very entertained by Jake Pavelka's season, but I do not think that he was the best Bachelor. But I was extremely entertained by that season.
Like, I don't care for Sean Lowe. I don't like most of them. I don't really care for, but I watch it because I'm addicted to the show. Like,
yeah,
really
Bachelorette.
I liked JoJo, I believe. I liked Lindsay.
I liked Caitlin's season when it was on. I liked Ali Fedotowsky's season when it was on. I thought she was a good Bachelorette.
I can get
Rachel, yeah.
Most of the women I liked, to be honest.
Yeah, I usually like the Bachelorettes more to begin with.
So basically, I don't know. I don't even really care about the rest of this, the after the final rose, other than the fact that the last 2 minutes they bring on Katie and Michelle, and they are going to be the new Bachelorette. Plural. So Katie's going to be going out first, and then Michelle after. I believe that Katie's will air in June, and then they'll be recording Bachelor in Paradise in June, and then Bachelor in Paradise July, we're thinking, and then Michelle's season in September.
Yeah, I think something along those lines.
And then Joseph, you're reiterating something that we already talked about, but I agree with this. So Michelle didn't want to take off the last term of her job as a teacher, hence Katie will go get her own season that Reality sees, Steve says starts filming this weekend. Yes, and I believe it starts filming in New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken there. So Joseph, okay, that's Reality Steve's reason. They picked Katie, and when everything happened with Chris, they went back and picked Michelle. Katie was their first choice and complete producer plant. True. Canceled after she got ready. At least call and send a note before she washes her hair. Yeah, I would have been pissed. Like, I hate getting ready and then someone canceling going out, even if it's just friends and cancel. Like, if the date on a show canceled like that, I'd be livid. Breaking news: Michelle reached out to Rachel about the photos. Rachel never replied to her. Emmanuel is the one who put these ladies on stage to talk about her actions just to have ABC not show it. Wow. Let's find that.
I didn't know that.
They needed to get Neil Lane's sponsorship contract done, included in the final, probably.
But I think because they were already going to have him there, they were like, let's make him do something.
He's paid, like, might as well make him work a bit. Sorry, my bad, but just saying what I read, didn't know about Michelle. Like, that's brutal. They sent Neil Lane in for the plug. They knew he wasn't going to propose. Yeah, he wasn't at all. They would already be filming Katie's seasons, but the venue in Canada canceled. Yeah, I'm not having it, Moses. I checked out when he canceled the date. Yeah. I checked out of that whole episode. I was just kind of yelling the whole time at the end of the episode. I didn't like her dress and what was the earring.
I liked her dress. The green
dress?
dress?
I like the green dress.
I thought she looked cold because she didn't have a jacket and it was clearly freezing outside, but
no, like, I heard they found a place in New Mexico to do it. Yes. Yeah, I think Connor and Matt, their issues is the experience factor. Mm-hmm. Here's some tea. Yes, Carolyn always has the tea. These ladies are dressed up by an old white man, Carrie. So just force him to have the final rose ceremony. He wanted to go to her hotel and tell her, but the producer said no. Okay. Brutal. I think that Rachel's dead in the water. Apparently they were promoting her heavy in the beginning of the season and everything came out. They stopped.
Yeah.
Speaking of Connor, him and Mackenzie broke up. I did hear that, Scampy. Not that I'm surprised, but I expect hear. They said long distance. This wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Trajectories in their life. I'm like, no, like he wasn't actually into her, and she kind of just like entrapped him. But Tanya describes Rachel like she's playing Big Brother in terms of like she's adapting to her game. It's true. This isn't a Big Brother. It's a reality show. There's a strategy.
She's very much playing the game. But I also coincidentally think those skills would probably make her good at Big Brother. She's like totally the type of contestant that goes far on the US baby.
Yeah, she'd get into a showmance. Like she'd probably be competitive, comp beastie. I think she can get to the end. She might be even like the mean girl in that scenario with like being the cool gang, the cool crew. Interesting points. If Rachel's racism rehabilitates herself, would she be considered for the Bachelor as a redemption story? I could see them do that.
I would not put anything past them, but I do think I agree that she's dead in the water at this point. I think she'll likely continue to have a pretty solid influencer base that she's got going there with what she's built. And then I don't think we're going to see her bringing us on the journey of the work that she's doing.
I think that once it fades, like she's going to be like, okay, let's like redirect. So Emmanuel did amazing, asked the correct questions. The only thing she didn't like was him trying to have Matt hug Rachel. I didn't notice that. Did you?
When he said, before we go, like, did you want to have a final embrace? And then Matt just was silent. That was so awkward. Oh my
God, I think I blocked that out. Oh my God. I didn't hear the final embrace. I would have written that down for sure.
He said, Emmanuel's like, if you want to have a final embrace, and then Rachel kind of just like, she doesn't really shift her body, but she like clearly has like a little bit more like open body language towards Matt, like staring at him. And then he just is like staring out and dead silent for what felt like 5 hours. Like it was literally like the silence was screaming, like it was so loud. He clearly did not want to embrace, but he also didn't say that. So he just shut down completely. It was incredibly uncomfortable.
I mean, I'm going to watch that back because I stopped taking notes when Matt came out, so I might have just like glazed over. He says, I don't know if Matt knew Michelle wanted to see him. I think he apologized for her not fully making her understand why he was dumping her. If he did, yeah, not cool. I think that he should have wanted to say more to her, even,
Yeah.
Wanted to have another conversation with her. They spent a lot of time together. I'm sorry you were hurt is very different from I'm sorry I hurt you. Absolutely.
Totally.
That's true, Caitlin. I want to ask Acho to ask Rachel what was wrong about attending the antebellum party, not just to tell her what was wrong. Absolutely. And I wanted him to ask her about those allegations that the person that knew her from high school had made. I wanted him to just bring that up because it hasn't been addressed at all.
Yeah, I wish we could like. It just like seems like this is like what I was saying before, where it's like so obvious how far back this even needs to be addressed that it's like, okay, we're not even on a baseline level, like across the board of people watching the show, like understanding what is racist and not racist. So like, I think Emmanuel was like asking questions and voicing things that, are things that people would bring up, to defend Rachel normally, and kind of like asking those questions to kind of preemptively get his audience to hear answers to things that they were already going to start refuting. But I don't know that like this is the most productive it's like the most babyest of baby steps, something that we've never seen happen before. So obviously very important, but I was just like, holy shit, like this is where we're at in this conversation. Wow, like we're really at the beginning of like how are we going to see people represented with any level of nuance if this is where the conversation is right now? And that was like the overwhelming sensation I got from it, watching, and I was just like, fuck, like we've got a lot to do. Like a lot to do.
I don't know if
forward
to do it with. Okay, so BB says some people are saying that Acho was harder on Matt than he was on Rachel. I didn't really hear this. I don't really think he was that hard on Matt.
I think he wasn't as hard on Rachel as I would have wanted him to be. I'm not sure what to make of his conversation with Matt, to be honest. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'd have to rewatch it. I was checked out a little bit. Maybe it was just didn't want to look at him because of the beard. Like I really don't like the beard on him.
I know, it's so weird.
Not a thing. Yes, I agree with Tamika. Michelle did dodge a bullet. Hi, Dolores. Don't worry. Well, we're almost done, but thanks for joining in, even though I'm late to the party with your comment. The rumors were the TikTok stuff. Yeah, the proof was the photo. Yes, yes. Acho led Rachel too much. She did not have to answer her questions with her isolated thoughts. Yes, I do wish that he didn't feed her the line. You know, I wish she had come up with these things on her own. Did you all see the GMA interview? Seems he asked harder questions on the WOC than the white women, or women of color than the white women. No, I haven't seen that yet. I'll take a look for sure.
No, I didn't see that either. Emmanuel on GMA?
Yes.
Interesting.
I have a wish that Michelle would be the next Bachelorette. Well, your wish is coming true. Definitely. So Matt did imply the questions about race were reserved for the Black women. It's on YouTube. Check it out. And Michelle is the Bachelorette. Yes, she is. I mean, I'm excited to see how that goes down. Hopefully there'll be flights, restrictions will be lifted, and so she'll be able to take full advantage of being the Bachelorette with a lot of traveling and not just being on one compound. And so hopefully with her doing it later on in the year, it will give that opportunity. So fingers crossed. On GMA, Matt admitted the questions about race were not discussed with the white women. It should have been. It should have been all. Nope.
I mean, that's
it's typical. That is America. It is. It is. We always have to talk about race and defend ourselves, but not have the race card. And we're talking about race too much. And it's just like, let's just pose it to the other people then that get to be free of talking about race all the time. Fantastic news. I will check it out. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to look it up right after this. Rachel's dad brought up those concerns about what
he was skeptical about the engagement at the end, and
what's that referring to? Well, I think they did have some Black women like Lauren, Kayla, Sydney, and a few Matt just didn't fancy them.
Maggie, Chelsea.
Yes, he had a lot of really wonderful Black women that he wasn't interested in, and maybe it is deep down that he wasn't willing to, like, he knew that he wasn't going to be ready for a relationship, and he didn't want to break up with the Black woman. Like, that would be a lot worse, to be honest, like if it didn't work out. So Chris Soules, I don't know what that's regarding, but I did not like Chris Soules as the Bachelor, or even on whoever season he was from. I can't remember. Will we see Matt on Paradise? I say no.
No.
He's by the franchise.
Matt has been traumatized by the franchise.
With Michelle and Katie getting their own Bachelorette season, should ABC have no issues in getting a Bachelor next season from a big pool of hopefuls? I hope so, and I hope they don't jump the gun on the person that they pick. Like, I hope they just think about it a little bit better. I want to enjoy the Bachelor season. Please make him be 30 at least. It was Jake, then Brad. Okay, yeah. What was with these Katie and Tyler dating rumors? I never heard that.
Me neither. Lord.
Well, we covered Katie's season. If Tanya's game, I'm game. Yeah, we're going to think of a new structure too. Well, I'm going to, and hopefully Tanya will be interested. We're going to figure out making it more of like this sex segment and this segment, and then like the Hooju and stuff like that. Like making it more segmented, which I think will make it more fun too. So it depends on how the season flows. Like this season didn't flow like normal.
No.
Like, okay, pre-date, date, like after the date. Like I want to do it like that, but it kind of was always bouncing around. So hopefully they'll get back to their regular structure and we'll be able to make a nice little more of a show that's more concise. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We have a couple weeks to figure it out at least.
Yeah.
Rachel did not list specifics about what she's been doing regarding racism rehabilitation because she has been doing nothing. Probably. Great points, girls. I had to run. We'll for sure catch the rest later. Remember to thumbs up the video. Thank you, Dolores. It's so kind for time. Journey on a paper. Sorry. Matt said what hurt him was having to explain why 2018 is problematic in 2021.
Yeah. He should not have to do that.
No. I think they edit Rachel this way because they didn't show didn't know racism was going to blow up like this. Remember, Chris stood up for her. Wasn't shown the edit a while back. I agree with you guys. She got sympathy edit. Yeah, she did get a sympathy edit. I'm still mad at Matt, though. I don't think he was a good boyfriend. I was actually really fine with how Matt treated Rachel. Her family has been going to the tabloids and making him the bad guy. Oh, okay. I think they tried to defend what she did, and that was the last straw. Okay.
And he is also receiving like negative comments from people since the finale aired for breaking up with her. Like the unhinged quality of the defense of her and why she so deeply resonates with so many people that are coming to do this is like a huge issue. And it's just so clear to me as all of this plays out, like, it's a big yikes. So, yeah, I think he was fed up. He was fed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Tamika said she totally centered herself in the whole conversation, how she wants him in the relationship. Yeah, she had not necessarily learned and understood has some empathy for where he's coming from and why he doesn't get it yet. So I don't think they should get back together. I just didn't like how he treated her on The Bachelorette, but it's fine with her now, I guess. I'm like Tasha, I like Rachel now. Not then. I got snowed by the whole Peter thing. That's true. They definitely painted her the bad girl for not choosing Peter.
But I still liked her as the lead then. I also got snowed by the Peter thing, but I still was like, she's a great lead. Like, I enjoyed her in that role a lot.
Me too. Isn't it interesting? Bachelorettes are more successful than man bachelors. Why do you guys think that is? Do you guys think that women dig deeper and choose who is right for them and the guys go for looks? Yeah.
Yes. Precisely that.
Women are always more so ready to settle down than men are. I also learned there's a study that there are more women on the planet right now that are eligible. And so because the dating pool is so vast that men don't feel the need to lock down a woman because they don't feel like there's scarcity. So that's another thing that's like going on just globally, is that there's more women than men on the planet that are eligible. So like they have so many picks that like they don't feel the need to lock anybody down because there's somebody else that's going to walk past them. So. Mm-hmm.
I also think women are more willing to see a different perspective than what they normally go for. Like look at Tasha as an example. Like, I think she's willing to see someone outside of her type and actually consider that. I think for a lot of the men, or particularly the male leads of this show, they're not, they're really just kind of stick with what they know. And that's happened time and time again. I think most of the women are more willing to have a different viewpoint, a different perspective.
100%, and like be vulnerable and fall. Dina says, I think that we need to remember that this was edited. So many questions were asked, but we didn't get to see them, but rather we saw what ABC wanted us to see. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
And it was catered to its white audience 100%.
Maybe he didn't want to come across as a black man attack her, Rachel, even though he did a good job. I think they should have had a black woman questioning her. Interesting. I won't watch Katie, but I will be here for your recap. Yes, Tamika. Well, maybe Katie's going to choose a black man. You never know.
We'll
Guys,
see.
comment on Love Island UK season 7 coming this summer. Oh my God, guys. Yes, of course I will. But that's a big commitment, though, because that's an everyday thing.
5 nights a week.
Woo! I mean, if I'm free, if I'm at 1,000 subscribers, I will 100% be doing it. And then, like, whomever can join me whenever they can, 100%.
It'll be good to have a UK season back in the mix because while this last US season was good and entertaining, Love Island UK is its own special, beautiful thing. And I look forward to having that much content from them again.
Tamika says that I'll go back and watch maybe, but I'm not a fan of Katie, LOL. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Katie. I mean, I might change my mind when the time comes. We will be covering too many things and just wait until Michelle's season or Bachelor in Paradise. But I'm most likely going to cover it because I will be watching it. And it's an easy one to cover in general. Thanks, BB. We're 700, 300 to go until my goal. And what Mike instead of Peter, but he was with Demi Lovato. Yes, he was moving on up. And the last one, this is the last one because I'm trying to get off of here before 3 hours because this is I think that Rachel wanted to be with Matt while ignoring his identity. I thought that the way Matt spoke at finally addressing Rachel was good. What she did was hurtful. 100%. Yes. I'm kind of judging her on this, just the season, how he treated her, but I do feel that it was right for him to break up with her. I don't think that she understands even why he broke up with her. And so I do think that he needs to talk to her though and make her understand that it's separate. The breakup is separate from their relationship on the show. Like it's two different entities. So I think maybe he does need to have a conversation with her. I know she doesn't deserve that, but I do think he needs to have that because I don't know if she can compartmentalize like they're breaking up, but they're in love. And then I did something that's wrong that I'm sorry about. Like, I don't think she understands it all. And so as someone
she was blindsided. She was blindsided by him breaking up with her. It's like, how could you possibly be blindsided when you have had a conflict about everything that your actions like have spurned on? Like that's not what blindsided is. So she doesn't get it, or she didn't get it.
And so, I mean, he doesn't really owe her anything, but I would like him to have a conversation to make her understand that it's completely two separate entities here. Like breaking up with you on the show is different from me breaking up with you from your actions, that I can't be with you anymore because of what you've done within the last couple of years. So he still have some clarity, but he can do whatever he wants. It's his own, choice for sure. Okay, we're getting in. We're last time we're talking together probably for a while, unless you come and chat with me about Big Brother Canada, which has been really great so far.
It's been great.
You are welcome to come whenever you'd like.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out with us and being such loyal subscribers for this whole season. Like, honestly, like the only reason why we're talking this long is because you guys are engaging with us. So definitely appreciate the conversation. I think that we've actually both, well, at least I have grown a lot in like how I understand race relationships on TV in the Bachelor Nation. Like, I think that it's definitely surprisingly been a growing experience for me. You too, Tanya?
100%. Like, I didn't think when we started this season we were going to like end up going so deep on so many things, but honestly I'm very glad that we did, and even the conversations that we have with everybody week to week for me have been like personally super enriching, and I hope for everyone else too. It's been enjoyable and that it was still kind of fun outside of all that stuff, and it's like super important to me to continue to keep understanding different perspectives and trying to, really be mindful about how I speak about things and speak about the things that are important to me. And this has presented a really great opportunity to do that. And I've learned a lot from that. So who knew?
People kind of shun me a little bit for being a reality TV junkie, but it does offer the opportunity to have some of these conversations that it doesn't get presented unless it's in a scripted show that often, unless it's a little bit more contrived. So I like the rawness that it spurs out, and I like being able to have these conversations with intelligent people from different walks of life around the world. And I think that that's a gift that, you know, reality TV has offered us. And so I'm really grateful that, you know, you have so much great insight, and your perspective has always been so welcomed with humor and for great critical perspective. It's definitely been a pleasure covering the season with you.
Likewise.
I loved it. So
likewise.
Thank you, everybody. Getting in before the 3-hour mark. I love you. Let's do this for one last time this season. Please subscribe and have a great rest of your March.